Hello everybody, James Rink here. Welcome to Super Soldiers and Milabs of the Secret Space Program. So I've got a wonderful presentation for you about Milabs and Super Soldiers, as well as a history background for people who are interested in learning more about Super Soldiers and the Secret Space Program. Maybe we can close some of these doors so we can get some of the background noise out. I'm going to go start with a little bit of definitions, and then we're going to go into the history of the Secret Space Program. I've also got some information about the different main groups involved in Milabs, the NGOs involved, some physical evidence that I have to back up at least some of my claims, not all of them, can't obviously prove all this, but I have some channel communications with Tian, who's a 14-foot tall reptilian from Reeds, who made super soldiers, worked on super soldiers with the military. Different types of super soldiers and creation of programming, gen models, obviously in the process of all of that, and then Alex Diaz, who was involved with this on missions that I did. So here's the definition of a super soldier. Obviously, they're going to use them over and over again, and typically they would put them on these 20, 40, 60 year and back. Of course, they would keep them in a young state. They would use different types of femto technology, which are biobots that are smaller than the size of quarks within the DNA, and we're going to go into that a little bit later. Memories are wiped over and over again. They're age regressed and put back in time moments before they're taken. So as you can see, you need a camera, 40,000 frames a second or faster to catch them in the act. So then we also have Manchurian candidates. Of course, they're sacrificial lambs. So they spend a lot more money on super soldiers than a Manchurian candidate, obviously. Then we have military abductions, the Milabs. So they are performed by members of the Secret Space Program and/or NGO military contractors, and I'm gonna list all those out for you. MK, mind control. That's a German word for mind control. And then we have Ultra, which is the basically you sometimes hear Mark Ultra. That's the ultra top secret group. Part of military intelligence. So here's my Milab file. This was channeled information, at least initially, and the reason why I believe it's accurate is because multiple different channels, remote viewing, brought this up, as well as Peter the Insider, who I can mention a little bit about later on. But when it says 54363, it's actually 5-4363, because I was Gen 5, Unit 4363. Agent Sabretooth is one of the names they gave me. I don't actually turn into a saber-toothed tiger. However, it's possible they could do that. They actually use viral enhancements, and there's different clone bodies. They could do it. So I can't really comment if they did or not, but anyway. But so there you go, Gen 5 biomechanical superhuman alpha attack group. I was part of actually Alpha Group 45, Branch Ortega team call name Alpha Wolf, and there's my AI systems tech number. So this would be one of my clone bodies. This is not necessarily James Rink, because there's different clone bodies they have us projector cells into. Here's a main function. Obviously, I'm not really proud of most of that, but anyway, I wouldn't go out and do this type of stuff in my normal life. Not that I'm willingly anyway. I couldn't tell you what pre-tone CI means. So Mayhem is Monarch. We'll definitely go into Monarch later. I was part of Monarch, and Monarch is the worst of these programs to be involved with. It's all trauma-based mind control, basically. So there you have it: guerrilla management, black ops, special ops, inside warfare. The last line, my address was part of the channel communication, so I don't want you guys to know where I live, but you probably could find it if you really wanted to. But anyway, the point is, let's move on here. So right here we see a TRIPS chair that was drawn by Tyler Clark. So in that particular trip chair was in Jackson's, and we're going to go, well, I might as well go ahead and comment about Jackson's. I believe Jackson's facility is located 150 miles due east of Jacksonville, Florida. Of course, obviously that's at the bottom of the ocean. And there's a sister facility located on Mars. And I know that because through remote viewing I've done. But stand down codes and all that, I'm not giving you an activation code, but okay. All right, yeah, we just went over that. That's obviously Photoshop, but that's what I visualized what it would look like. Well, more like the Martian side of it. But anyway. Okay, so codename Delta 1. Delta refers to what Hollywood is referred to as Delta Force, but they called it Delta 1. So when I was Reelsburg in 70, oh, I didn't put that down here. So James Martin Reelsburg, in 1979, I was in the U.S. Army as James Martin Reelsburg, Delta 1, and I died in Persia. So they took my corpse and reanimated it, and that's where it comes into Project Name Recovery and Project Surrogate. And what you see at the bottom there, MG644IT, I think that was a mission in Nazi Germany, so I really don't, there's so much stuff. Yeah. No, because I've already white balanced everything. What, is it bothering someone? Well, it's hard to see the photos.
Yeah, the projector's a little weak.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is that better?
Well, that helps.
Yeah.
But you're dark.
I can focus on here.
Can you just check?
Could you just maybe do these off, maybe, and leave that?
It looks good on here.
Okay, well then we'll just figure it out in post.
Right there. Dark on there.
Looks good to me.
All right. Let us proceed. Next.
I ask a question.
Yes.
Are you going to go any more into the surrogate program, or can you explain to us what surrogate?
Good question. So they would reanimate dead soldiers and then re-age them and then insert them into surrogated families so that we'd be raised as part of their own. And a lot of people that are involved in these projects were part of Project Surrogate. And you don't even have to be a super soldier to be part of Project Surrogate. And I do have some so one of the ways they actually do this is, so there are some grays that have these receptacles, and they go to different men and extract the sperm, and then they go to women, inject it, and then they're going around making all these hybrid babies. They actually combine some of the DNA. There's a receptacle inside them that combines certain nanites to alter the DNA. And that's in my book if you want to learn more about that process. And that was a whole thing because actually there was an avatar that I did on Draco Prime where I was a reptilian, and I had a sheet of paper in front of me, or I don't know if it was actually a piece of paper, but a list of something you could read. And I had like these claw talons, so we were remote viewing it, so I was like I was moving my hand to read what was on the page, and then what we saw was a list of all the ships of the secret space program, or at least these groups got, and it was 100. A list of how many people were being abducted. I don't remember the exact number off the top of my head, and there was also some rituals that they did. They would have these clone gray bodies. These Draco, they would project their consciousness into them. They would have group sex and kill each other. Afterward, they extract the loosh. Anyway, so that has nothing really to do with this right here. So these are different avatars that I don't know what I looked like when I was Ring. Ring was when I was on the moon, LOC. Sabretooth, that's typically, he's used by, I believe, Shoreline, probably Alpha Squad 45. Sabretooth, Mark Sabretooth, that was an avatar that I worked with Peter the Insider, the London Olympics, as part of security. Now, all these are Photoshopped, so I'm just trying to give you a representation of what I look like. Reelsburg, I don't have a photo of that guy, but okay, so, and I think Reelsburg was probably another parallel reality because I did try to pull some military records to find out more about him, and I couldn't. Either that or it's just records been expunged. And I honestly, I couldn't even find anyone with a last name in the U.S. with Reelsburg, but maybe I could always do more searching. This was an artwork done by Jody Hargreaves. He lives in Montreal, and he does this excellent work. Well, this was all pencil, but you can kind of get an idea. So the Astra there, that people call it the TR3B, but it's actually G. They're on the G series. So B hasn't been used since the 1960s. DOD. Okay, so I do have some information from DOD. I had a contact at Oak Ridge, pull my file. So he had clearance. You had to go up to number 8, which is 8 levels above top secret. So I don't know how legal this is for me telling this, but you know what? It's my file, so I'm going to share it anyway. The first parts aren't part of that. Name recovery surrogate. Yeah, I just put that on there. Actually, it's bleak, abandon, equalize. So different type of C projects, super soldier alignment projects. As you can see, bleak was the trigger word, social situations. Then there's abandon, which basically they consider me a defunct super soldier, so they were trying to modify me. When I say defunct, it's more like I wasn't cooperating with their mind control, so they would have to shoot me up with femtotech in order to cooperate, make me more cyborg-like. And then equalize, so alien DNA. I don't know if I have 2 hearts, but be curious. I'm not going to put myself under the knife to get dissected anytime soon. Okay, so there you go, number 8. Oh, yeah, they say the file states my programming failed and I was released from the system. And then they most likely put me in another program, so... Yeah, they wanted the goal for they call us, they give us like product life, not life stream, product life, basically a shelf life of a super soldier, and it's typically about 45, 50 years. So the goal was for me to commit suicide eventually and not ever get my memories back, but that's not the plan that I have for me. Okay, so some of the operations. This was remote viewed. I went with Adam to this, it was the Capitol building in D.C. We pulled up a carpet, and there was one of these floors that you could pull up and go down some steps. We found some supercomputers and a screen, and then typed my name in there. This came up. Let's see, I'm going to go to the next one. Okay. So, and then what happened is right at the end, there was like some smiley faces, you're not supposed to be here, operation, you're not supposed to be here. So we tried to actually go back again another time and everything was gone. So I think this actually might have been a parallel reality, perhaps, because I think they might have figured out what we were up to and moved everything away. Okay, so this cyanide, I was only able to work with Adam to look up one of these operations that we were on together. So a small city in Russia, wintertime. Of course, Adam had a sniper scope. He got ambushed and he was taken in. He was handcuffed. But we were actually trying to find this target, that's really, my Russian's horrible. But anyway, so he got compromised, taken into custody, and then we were able to rescue him. So just shows you at least some of the missions. As far as like recovering the memories, a lot of times when we do these missions, we're in clone bodies. So even though I'm here doing my existence, my consciousness is in these avatars that are doing all this, and they don't allow us to they don't want me to do any missions in my physical vessel. Well, for starters, it would possibly damage me. They would have to make another clone. Not that I guess they got plenty of them, but the memories would bleed through a lot easier, so that's why they do that. Okay, yep, there you go. So we're going to go over, this is just a summary. I probably should, I think I'm going to just move forward because this is all, at least 243 years old. I say least because there's other parallel realities my consciousness can project. Well, I mean, when you talk about oversoul, we're all really these different realities at the same time, so it's kind of hard to really state. But I believe from at least this point of origin to other realities, it's at least 1,000. But anyway. Okay, origins of the SSP. There you have it, 1920s. They used channel communications from the Vril. Actually, my co-host on my show, Jessica Era Morocco, she is one of these Vril girls in her past life. Okay. Anyway, so, they were communicating with Nordic beings and tall whites. So I'm sure a lot of people here, this is probably review, but if not, I'm going to go ahead and I put it up here so people can understand. But they were trying to create this diglocka, or the bell, which is again, the mercury-powered superconductor used for space flight and levitation and time travel as well. But the Nordics, when they were channeling the Nordics, they were, in this parallel reality, the Nordics are very I would guess the best word you could use is racist. They inspired Heinrich Himmler to initiate all the policies against the Jews. So, but we're going to talk a little bit more about the parallel reality where that didn't happen and what was going on here, because that actually plays into this as well. Yeah, so there you go. This is obviously a drawing. Gives you an idea what it might have looked like. Okay, so and I didn't have enough time to actually put my sources of some of this information, because I know some people probably want sources. Unfortunately, I don't know the exact sources for at least the information here on the top. But 1932, the Nazis opened up abandoned bases on the moon. So they actually found facilities there. They're ancient, and they opened it up. And so now that's become Lunar Operations Command. But there's probably a whole group of, I don't know if that exact original base is LOC, but yeah, so there you have 36,000. Talked to Randy Kramer. I think he said close to 50, but either way, 36, 50, whatever. Okay, so 38, they traveled to Antarctica. Oh yeah, so they colonized Antarctica, base 211. Of course, a lot of people have heard about this, New Swabia, and it is probably like there was some volcanic activities that allowed it to be ice-free in this certain area. And from there, they traveled to Mars and so on. But I want to mention that the Nazis had all this advanced real technology to do with time travel and space flight. However, so why didn't they win World War II? And one of the reasons, at least for this, is the New Schwabenländers did not. They thought Hitler had lost his mind, and they didn't want to give them any kind of air superiority support. As a result, at the end of the war, it was like a splinter group. They broke off from the main Nazi group, and so they, even though they still have the eagles and the swastikas down there, but they don't really consider themselves Nazis. They consider themselves German, according to Penney Bradley, who's here today, who's actually going to be participating in a little bit later if we have some time. So moving on here, Nazi bases were opened up on Mars, 46, again in the equatorial region, and then they found that there was all this electrical storm activity. As a result, they had to go up to the more northern hemisphere where there were lava tubes, Ares Primus, which I'm probably not saying, but that's the headquarters of the MCC, the Mars Colony Corporation. So MCC has like multiple governors in different regions of Mars, and the goal is to be like self-supporting. They keep a lot of slaves there, but I don't really go and have really much time to go into all that. But and then of course they got the MDF, which supports it, and then there will also be the NGO groups, the super soldiers that would be sent out to eliminate a lot of the hostilities, such as you've got the insectoids and the reptilians that have, and there actually are native humans on Mars. They have olive skin, and they can breathe the air naturally. The air is very thin. I might have that on a slide. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. It's like equivalent of like 8 to 10,000, like 8 to about 12,000 feet altitude here on planet Earth. And the temperature is kind of similar to that. In the equatorial regions at night, it gets very cold. But in the northern hemisphere, you probably most likely have to be underground. I think we might have a slide on the fauna, but let's just move on here. Oh wait, the last one. Yeah, okay, I covered that. Okay. No, did I? I want to make sure I did this one. Okay, Fifth Reich Nazis. This is according to Penney Bradley. They're basically, so we got Third Reich Nazis, which was what we had during World War II. And then after that, we had the Fourth Reich Nazis who were trying to bring back the Third Reich. And the Fifth Reich are the ones that are outer space, the SSP groups. So, and then we have the Yozora no Kaishu, which is the Japanese version of Dark Fleet. So these Nazis went off to become Dark Fleet. And then the Japanese side, nobody really talks about this, except the only person I know is Thomas Alvin, who I interviewed. And he had some experiences with them. So it's be curious to learn more about them, if there are any other experiences out there. But so Yep, so there we go, the Diglaka. And they used, according to Thomas Alvin, they went back in time 400 years and they set up colonies all across the galactic rim. And they actually separated their fleets, intergalactic, which is the inner ring, I think, or maybe the opposite, but there's like the inner ring and the outer ring of the galactic, of this galaxy. And they have different fleets to manage that because it's, I mean, our galaxy is so huge. All right. So yeah, they prefer to be called themselves Germans. Move on. So there he goes, Antarctica. One of these, the bases down there. I can't tell you which where in this map it would be, but maybe some of the crafts, the early crafts that were used to travel to these bases. Obviously, of course, now that it's progressed, it's a lot faster to get there. Like for instance, it would take about an hour and a half. If you were in Solar Ward, an hour and a half to get to the moon on one of these crafts. I'm not sure what would be in Mars, but they also have jump rooms. But my presentation is not going to cover jump room technology. Yeah, so in the cylinder crafts, they would use that. That's actually, you would see that more with Solar Warden, and I'm going to go into Solar Warden later on. Basically, they use converted submarines, put some anti-gravity technology on there to lift it up. Operation High Jump, this is probably a review from probably almost everybody in here. If not, here it is. So after World War II, the U.S. was, I guess, we were at the height of our, in our minds, our superiority. We thought we eliminated the Nazis, but there were rumors that there were still some down there in Antarctica. So they, the U.S. recruited Admiral Byrd to go down there to wipe them out, and that did not work out as planned. They were nearly annihilated with this extremely advanced technology that the Nazis had. And I do want to mention, like, during World War II, the weaponry was could not really, they had projectile weaponry, so laser and phaser technologies could not penetrate the force field of within the Diglaka anti-gravity crafts, so they couldn't really use it to really shoot any other crafts down. But after the war, they managed to figure that problem out. And really, the Nazis, they won technologically, and I think I might talk about that a little bit. Essentially, we beat the Nazis by outproducing them with all of our industry here in the United States, but not all the timelines were like that. But I don't want to go into parallel universe just yet. Let's just stick here with our timeline. So as we know, we have in the 50s, the Truman and Eisenhower administrations were disclosing their, they did not want to disclose that we had not defeated the Nazis. So, and then the Nazis were putting pressure on them because they want the world to know that they're still here, that they were not defeated. So they, this next slide. I'll just show you. Yeah, so I'm sure some people may recognize this. This is 1952. There was this flyover. I'll go back to that slide in just a bit. But so in order to prevent hysteria and panic, an agreement was put into place. And the whole goal was to put American, I guess you can call them agents or spies within the Nazi apparatus. But of course, the Nazis, they knew what was going on. And anyway, but I guess you'd call it like a partnership. And that's what ultimately created what our MIAC, led by MJ12 and Jason Society, which is like the group of scientists that were backward engineering some of the tech. Incidentally, DARPA was also created in 1958. So DARPA is also tied into all this. Okay, so there you go. Pressure was put on administrations, and then we got this is repeat, sorry. Yep. MIC, that's how it began. And, I didn't even touch on Roswell, and some of that also played into this with the meetings with the different grays, the tall grays from, I believe it was Betelgeuse. But anyway. Okay, so ICC, the U.S., at least how I would interpret it is like the U.S., this group that infiltrated the Nazi German groups created what is known as the ICC. The whole goal was to create these colonies off-world that would be self-sufficient, and they would initially they would channel the American economy, or really I guess you call it the world economy, to help fund this. And the whole goal was for them to become breakaway civilizations. For the most part, many of them are breakaway civilizations now. They don't even need us. But so they actually named it the ICC in the mid-1970s. And then they would seek technology. Technology is actually a form of currency off-world. So because when they started off, they didn't have any technology. So what they would do is they would make deals with ETs, trade humans to kidnap us or abduct humans and sell them off as slaves. And they would, some of them would be converted to cyborgs, and others would just be used for experiments. Of course, the way the U.S. saw this is like the ETs have been here for millions of years. They've been doing it anyway, so why not just jump on it and they would benefit from it. But the whole thing backfired. A lot of these, like for instance, like these reptilians and some of these gray groups, when they see humans and how we treat animals, how we raise them on farms and slaughter them, they say, well, they do it to the lesser organisms, and they consider us lesser. So it's like, well, why not? It's so we really kind of had to keep that in perspective. But okay, so moving on here. Hopefully everybody's read all that, but okay. So this was Tony Rodriguez gave me permission to put this drawing of a mantis on Mars that bit his arm off. But there was also, like I said, the reptilians are part of the natural fauna, and they had crickets the size of according to Andrew Basiago, time travel, Project Pegasus, whistleblower. There were grasshoppers the size of buses, school buses, and those were very hard to get away from. And they were meat eaters. There were also spiders, 12-foot long spiders. You wouldn't want to get. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And and I believe there are also some types of tree. Actually, next slide. Well, let me go ahead and read this. Okay, so yeah, we got the MDF came into play in the 1970s. The Germans would be in control, but evidently the language spoken there was English. Maybe there are different groups that still spoke German. I think the officers all spoke German, but so we got Kruger was one of the military contractors tasked with clearing the native fauna, and also I guess I say native fauna. It's more like they were intelligent civilization down there. They were advanced. It's not like they're going out there killing a bunch of animals. They had communities, and anyway. Okay, so this is what I mentioned earlier about the atmosphere. NASA is clearly lying. This is sourced from Andrew Basiago, and so it's the atmosphere is very breathable. Not for very long. You probably wouldn't want to be out there for more than 15 minutes without supplemental oxygen, and especially if you were put into any kind of combat situation, you probably need some extra oxygen. Okay, so ICC has over 100 colonies. I don't have the information how many Dark Fleet has, but I'm assuming it's a lot more because ICC has only been around since this would be the 70s, roughly 58 to 70s. So, and the Dark Fleet has been going back in time 400 years and setting up bases all over the place. So, I mean, we're all over out there. There you go, 20 ICC cloak stations. We got some of them are orbiting around Earth, the research facilities. We have some for sustainable living environments in outer space, long-term travel, so they're doing studies on all that. Hydroponics. And of course, there are a lot of ships out there too, warships for defending all this stuff. Okay, so stations further out in our solar system are basically minor stations for spy, recon. Everybody's spying on each other, and that's sort of the way it is. Even here on planet Earth, everybody tries to spy on each other, try to keep track of their competition. But plasma generators. I couldn't tell you necessarily how that technology works. That might be a workshop on its own. Let's go on here. Okay, so this is the main. Finally, get to the Milabs. So we have obviously, of course, Dark Fleet. They're going to need their super soldiers. Yozuru no Kyushu, Dark Knight. And then the planetary corporations. The main ones are actually Kruger, Monarch, Massive Dynamics, Shoreline, and DARPA. I added the other two. The Scorpion umbrella, those are from parallel universes that affect us here in this reality. We'll go into all those. And then, of course, below them is Labyrinth, ACO. It's actually ACO. ACO works with Labyrinth. Labyrinth works with, it's like a group of people that communicate with different extraterrestrial races. ACO is the Alien Contact Intelligence Organization, and they interface with extraterrestrials to act as liaison to help sponsor, in particular, like the numbers group. They have their agenda, what they want, where they want to see humanity go. So, in my opinion, a positive timeline. So, and also ACO goes to other parallel universes. And then below that is Solar Warden, which is tied into ICC. That would be the U.S. Well, I wouldn't want to use the word U.S. More like Earth factions that are not tied into the German groups. Mostly, okay.
Solar Warden is U.S.
Well, what about like certain like groups within the UN and other countries? They have Russians out there as well, and other people. Like even at LOC, there are many flags on some of their uniforms. So maybe the U.S. controls it, and other groups, other countries are participating. Okay, so and then obviously MIEC is way at the bottom, and that would include the alphabet agencies, and we're going to go into that in just a moment. So really, and Penny will, if we get some time, I believe we'll have time for her. But Dark Fleet, there we go. As I mentioned earlier, this basically review. Okay, so and how long or how big are some of the ships, the newer ones? How many miles long are they? Okay, 50 kilometers. So as you can see, they're probably more advanced than Star Trek or Star Wars. Okay. And this is actually Yozura no Kiishu. So these are Japanese. And the technology is extremely advanced. Obviously, you're going to have quantum computers and AI running these ships and so on. But the architectural, it kind of had like that 1940s vibe. So, and there was apparently I did some work in Dark Fleet. I was a child flight navigator, but I don't remember it, so I really don't want to comment about it. It was a remote viewing, hypnotic regression. Sorry. Okay. Planetary corporations. You probably can't read that because it's too small. Sorry, so I will read it to you. So we have Kruger. Kruger was originated in a parallel Earth in which the Nazis won World War II. And I have a slide about that. I will go more into that because I know that's very interesting for a lot of people. Monarch Solutions, they've been around for tens of thousands of years. The main base is massive, located underneath Toronto. It's actually one of the entrances under Toronto. It's adjacent to Toronto, on the border of U.S. and Canada. It's headed by Paul Serene. His clone is actor Kevin Spacey. They are basically responsible for pretty much most of everything wrong on this planet. And then Massive Dynamic is their sister facility in the UK, and the Fringe TV series helped brought that out in Hollywood. But apparently it is real, and even a lot of the actors in that, if you've ever seen Fringe, they're based on real life people as well, apparently. Shoreline Group runs base security Area 51. That's what I was part of. DARPA, founded in 1958. Again, the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency. So their budget is close to $4 billion a year, but they spend closer probably to $100 trillion. And I think pretty much everything probably under solar water maybe goes for them. I do have some more information on that in my book on where the money originates from, where it's going. And then Scorpion Corporation, that is responsible for Montauk. They are in another parallel reality, and there's probably multiple Montauks and multiple realities, and they're working like an umbrella corp, and that goes to Umbrella Corporation. So that was founded in If anybody's seen any of the Resident Evil movies, actually, it's not just Resident Evil. Even like on TV, you see a lot of zombie shows, and it's like this. It's just this idea within our consciousness. We just can't get enough about the zombie thing. So it really did take place, and it was in this reality anyway. It was created by Umbrella Corporation. They called it Ouroboros, and that was in that reality, humans were more negative. They were trying to create a virus, a retrovirus that would mutate people's DNA so that they would reduce aggression. And what happened is the retrovirus infected a crocodile in Miami. It mutated through the crocodile, and the crocodile bit a human, and then it became the zombie apocalypse starting in Miami. So, and there was actually in 2012, I don't know if anybody remember this, there was a story about a zombie that was eating somebody's face on the side of a highway. So, okay, so that's where it started. I don't know if that's when it was supposed to start, but obviously it didn't happen this timeline. We're not going to see a zombie apocalypse. The people here, our DNA is different. Also, we're a lot more positive over there. The people are more negative. So I think it seems like your own consciousness is a reflection of your reality. So the more positive you are, the more positive as a group consciousness we are, the less likely we're to see more these negative things. And I know some of this stuff is going to sound absolutely horrific, especially when we talk about Montauk, but apparently the other parallel realities are worse. We're talking cataclysms and nuclear war and so on. Moving on here, Kruger. So Kruger was started by military contractor by Gabriel Kruger. He worked under Adolf Hitler, and he just think like military contractors we have here in the U.S. I mean, he was making armaments, weapons, tanks, and so on. So so they are coming over to this reality to help clean up some of the mess done by Monarch. And Kruger, in that reality, the Nazis were a lot more positive. So it's hard to imagine a good Nazi, but apparently they weren't racist. You know, maybe my next. Oh, yep. Okay, we're getting into the best part about the Nazi parallel Earth. But I do want to mention that some Kruger experiencers or people who have been trained under Kruger have these dreams about killing zombies. So it'll basically start like this. You would kill one zombie, and then you'll come back, and then it'll be two zombies, and then three, and then it'll be a vampire, and a couple of vampires, and then it'll be zombies and vampires. So if you had those dreams, then you're most likely part of Kruger. Okay, so and there's Kruger runners, they run outside of time, and they need that for their missions as a super soldier. Okay, so we have Nazi parallel Earth. In this timeline, obviously they did not implement the final solution. I don't know what happened to Heinrich Himmler. I guess maybe Hitler ignored him. I don't know. But there was, but the only negative side of it, well, from what I would say the only negative thing, but there was no interracial marriage allowed. If you wanted to be involved in interracial marriage, you would have to live in the camps. They didn't actually kill people. They just forced them into work camps. But everybody, okay, so after I did not talk about the war. Okay, so during the war, Hitler did not invade the Soviet Union, so there wasn't two fronts. Additionally, they embraced the Jews, so they worked with them. And then after they invaded the U.S., they blew up the Washington Monument, replaced it with a 150-tall column of a spinning eagle. Has anybody seen the spinning eagle with the bay leaves underneath it, and the swastika? So it's kind of hard to imagine a world like that, but that's probably what it would have been like if the Nazis had won the war. So then they also embraced Nikola Tesla and gave him an unlimited budget, and as a result, they released all the suppressed technologies that they are still suppressing here. Free energy, anti-gravity, teleportation, and re-aging tech. Hitler's still alive over there, and he actually personally killed Paul Serene, the head of Monarch Solution. So they finally took care of Monarch, and that's why they want to come over here, so they can get rid of Monarch. Minimum wage is equivalent. Obviously, they use marks, but we have to have a conversion rate, so about $40 USD. And everybody lives in a mansion unless you're into interracial marriage. Also, it's prohibited to do public gestures of affection. So no kissing in public. That's and everybody's like stuck up emotionally. So you can imagine like what pranksters would be like over there. Probably get in trouble. But anyway, so yeah, and everybody drove. Well, I mean, I don't know whatever happened to the American car manufacturers, but Mercedes and BMWs, they only cost about $5,000 and get a 50,000 mile battery charge. Now, the ACIO had gone over here and tried to require. They acquired one of these vehicles. They brought it over here and they contacted American car manufacturers. So hey, well, let's just replicate this battery technology and incorporate it in electric vehicles here. And these car manufacturers said, absolutely not. We will lose our, and they went like that, and they said, we will lose our power, just like that. And these, the members of the ACIO were like, absolutely, they were shocked. They were like psychotic. They want to have the power. They don't, power as in control, instead of releasing this stuff. So that's why, okay, and there you go. East, West, split up. East Coast was German speaking, and although privately you could speak English, if you were out in public and you spoke English, there was, I guess the Nazi police would come out and they had cattle prods. So, and Trump was the governor of the East Coast, and he was high up in the Nazi Party, and he loved his role in the Nazi Party. But he also told Hitler to piss off, because if they keep abusing and traumatizing people, there's going to be another revolution. So, they don't have everything under control over there. So obviously that's what I'm saying. The best thing to do is just be kind and polite to each other and just tolerate each other. But I think maybe someday we'll get there. So this is from the series Man from the High Castle. Highly recommend it. A lot of it's not really accurate based on this timeline that I described, but it's still kind of fascinating. So check that out if you have time. Okay, Abatava. So there were a few bad things going on over there. Abatava is like a Nazi gulag. It's located in Alaska, and that parallel reality. So obviously, as you know, Alaska wouldn't really be controlled by the Japanese, even though that territory on the West Coast was. It was sort of like a no man's land, and they set up these gulags where they would take alien starseed children, hybrid children, and program them there. So they had these Sumerian signs that said Super Soldier Base. And the reason I have this here is because I was there. And then afterward, they would erase our memories and replace them with being with family and how happy everything was. Kruger, yeah, did another mission in Kruger. One was with Penny. She recalled where I was. This was drawn by Jody Hardgreaves again. Excellent artist, but Photoshop that. But so they have like these exoskeletons they wear on Mars to run faster. I don't know what kind of. You would think one of my cyborg bodies wouldn't need that kind of stuff, but depending what clone they used, I guess that would have needed that. But yeah, it was not very friendly. Maybe I'll let Penny explain that story when I'm done. He can explain some of that. But okay. And I guess the only other thing I can mention is I had a Kruger backpack, and the letters were like, I think they were curved U, and it was all gold colored letters. They said spelled out Kruger in a U shape, and the backpack was like sand camo or something like that. Okay, Monarch. Again, we went over this. There's Kevin Spacey, as we all know. He's got some issues. Hopefully he can find himself in the world. Of course, he is a clone of Apollo Serene, the head of Monarch. And that logo right there is from a video game. There is, I think it's called Quantum Break. So we are seeing some disclosures in video games, and it's almost like these people are channeling information that is based on reality, according to HIO. So I can't really comment or not whether that's the logo that Monarch Solution uses, but I threw that in there for reference anyway. And there they go. Umbrella, Montauk, and Massa Dynamic. Again, okay. This is another trip seat drawn by a Milab victim, but So this is an experience that I had. I spent 7 years in a monarch orphanage where they would use electroshock, waterboarding, and trauma-based mind control to try to access our abilities. They would kidnap and starseeds and take us here. And then the way I actually found out about this is that I was way back in the beginning when I first started getting into all this. There was this entity. I had a channel. It was, I guess, a psychic reading because I was getting these needle marks and cut marks, and I wanted to figure out what's going on because I don't remember. And they said that there was this entity on the other side. His name was David. He was 14, and he committed suicide, and he knew me, and I didn't remember him. And he said that apparently there was some kind of sexual molestation thing, and I don't remember any of this. But fast forward into the future, we're trying to explore more about why I didn't remember this, and this took place at this orphanage. He essentially committed suicide there, and he was actually 7 years old when he died, and he's been following me around ever since. So even though they take us to and as you can see, they keep pigs in the back where they feed the bad children that were not being cooperative to the programming. They had regen tech, but they didn't want to regenerate these kids. But the reason why I'm mentioning this is because even though they wipe our memories and put us back, or maybe we're in a clone body while this takes place, we are still being affected by the trauma. It's still stuck in our auras and our energy fields, and that's partly why I'm here today, because if this isn't stopped, it's just going to get worse. But I do believe it's coming. I do believe they're trying to get away from all this. Okay, so there's Nicholas Cruz. Hopefully everybody here remembers him, or if you don't, I'll give you a little brief rundown. He was the school shooter in Florida. That he was actually a monarch victim, and I don't know. I have massive dynamic. This should be under monarch, but this guy was shot up with cortexiphen, which you find in the Fringe series. It actually amps up your psychic abilities. It also amps up your aggression, and it takes away your fear. So they were the doctors. I don't know if the doctors at the school or whoever, monarch, was shooting him up with this stuff, and he shapeshifted into one of his altars. And according to Peter, which, I mean, I'm going to tell you what he said from Peter. Peter the Insider works for the ACIO. He said that essentially he had a tiger face, and he had a helmet on, and he had a super soldier body, and weapons were popped out of his skin, and he shot the kids up on campus. And then the MIB went in there, wiped people's memories, and deleted the phone pictures on people's phones. That's according to Peter. I mean, that's probably a stretch even for me to believe, but I'm telling you what he said. So essentially this kid, in my opinion, is just a victim, but I'm not going to really comment much more on that. But there you go, with Massive Dynamic. They work with Monarch.
Did they send him in, or did his...
Well, he got triggered. He got
and
triggered. They
it
were
just
shooting him up
happened?
with too much cortexiphen.
Okay, got it. So he's
Yeah,
not controlled.
like absolutely massive doses of the stuff. They were just trying to see what would happen. And by the way, the Hillary Clinton's also connected with Monarch, and Hillary Clinton was like friends with the police commissioner or chief of this county where this took place. So you know this is all Monarch.
He called them 37 times, asking them to stop him from what he was about to do because he knew he wasn't in control of his own mind.
Yeah, it's absolutely horrific. This type.
In the school?
What's that?
They were doing this to him in the school?
I don't know. Peter said the doctors in the school were shooting him up, but I mean they could take him to a base. But he did say this kid was throwing cars around, so I don't know. I mean, and they did keep the news media away when this was taking place. So I don't know how they covered that up.
Did you say what drug he said he was taking?
Cortexiphen. Can you see it?
Cortexiphen, okay. No,
Yeah.
it's following.
And that is found in the Fringe TV show, and it apparently is real. Yes.
Yeah, I was just going to say that's a pattern because all this has since Lee Harvey Oswald and even well before
Saran.
have all been triggered and treated that same.
I'm quite confident Monarch's been. I mean, like I said, Monarch's been around for tens of thousands of years, and they've been doing this for a long time. And these beings like Paul Serene, they have technology for re-aging, and they're very old beings, and a lot of them are infested with astral entities like what you would call archons. So it's an absolute mess down there. Okay, Shoreline Group. Base security, Area 51. Area 51 is right up the street from here. Well, maybe a little bit of a trek, but they are probably tied into Kruger. And remote viewing one of my clone bodies found one of these muscle-bound, bald-headed clones. He was about 7 foot tall. He did have white hair on the side, but he was kind of bald. He had a swastika, pyramid swastika tattoo, leather pants, leather shirt that was rolled up, and an eyepiece that plugged into an AI computer. And, well, I think that might be Rilsberg. I don't know. But anyway, so, yeah, so I wonder where that, okay. Yeah, that drawing was drawn by Felton. He's another super soldier who never really has gone public. Yeah, I don't blame him. This is not really easy stuff to talk about. But there you go, DARPA. At the last line down there, you can see where it says $100 trillion annually. That's according to ACI's sources. So, and I do want to mention that most of these SSP groups are breakaway civilizations. They don't even need this. This is just all the new stuff. So there's always new groups being started all the time, and you know, they're draining our economy here in the U.S., really the world. I mean, it's all funneling into the Federal Reserve. They have these offshore bank accounts where they rig the stock market, you know, pump it all up and down, and it's like a casino. Kind of here we are in Vegas, you know, think about casino. And the people, it's really difficult for people here at the bottom of the rung to really do anything about it. But that's why we got to get these technologies released. We got to be freed from money. Okay. Yes.
Do you have any discomfort about Google since the former head of DARPA is now in charge there?
Well, I mean that's clearly alphabet A, but you know, what are we going to do? We do need Google for research. I mean, Google is a great place to grab some photos and so on. But yeah, at this time, I'm just grateful that we still can get access. But you know, censorship is getting worse, and it probably continue to get worse until something is done about it. What that would be, I don't know, maybe a mass awakening, or maybe an alternative needed to be put in place. Usually that's how it changes. Yeah, what's that?
There is a guy working on an alternative to the current Google internet that's much more secure.
What, are you talking to like Gab AI? Perhaps something like that. Well, I mean, that would be the alternative to Facebook. Discord.
Kim.com has founded Discord, and it's at the forum stage, and I use it, and it's functioning.
We have a question over here. Yes?
Yeah, are you aware of QAnon?
Yes.
Okay, well, it's evidence that the QAnon group is either being led by a fifth density Palladian group, or they are Palladians that is the QAnon group.
Well, first of all, a lot of the Palladian groups, I want to say a lot, there are certain Palladian groups that are involved in a lot of bad stuff here on this planet, in particular semiotics. So I would be very hesitant to assume like the Palladian groups are good and the reptilian groups are bad. Now, I'm not saying that's what you're trying to represent here, but I don't really think that's the case, because it seems like a lot of the disclosures of QAnon would be more like reflecting maybe the Justice Department, but it's not. We're not seeing SSP disclosures or Majestic. Well, Majestic's actually connected with QAnon.
Real, there was a national security state to cover up Roswell, and there's a secret space program that connects back to Corey Goode.
Okay, well, QAnon would be connected with Majestic, but even those groups are not really tied into a lot of the SSP groups. They're just part of the MIEC. Okay, so we're only having those disclosures right now.
Earth Alliance. The QAnon groups are Earth Alliance. This is between Putin and the BRICS nation.
Well, I don't really think that the Earth Alliance is going to really do much, because really Solar War and these, even like Dark Fleet, there's so much power and control under these groups. But really, it's these other corporate, not necessarily Scorpion, but the other groups that are in power right now, because they have all the tech, because really the technology is what's controlling things. But here we go, Scorpion Corporation. This was an idea that I had. It was called the Montauk Memorial Museum. I wanted to create this museum to memorialize the 4 million children, according to Preston Nichols and so on, that died down the Montauk time tunnels. Nobody's willing to honor these kids that were at Montauk. It's absolutely horrific. We have monuments in Washington, D.C. recognizing, Vietnam War veterans and Holocaust survivors. No one wants to recognize what happened in Montauk. But I think in order to recognize what happened over there, that means we have to recognize all the stuff's going on. So that needs to be one of the disclosures. And I think someday it ought to be a physical museum in Washington, D.C. maybe someday. Okay. I can't really tell you much more about Scorpion Corporation. I think it's tied into stuff a timeline that went on in ancient Egypt, and we're talking about some of the deities that were down there that are incarnated in some of these bodies that are running this organization. But I can tell you Montauk was being run by the Thuban Draco. So I was at Montauk. They would re-age me from the age of 7 to the age of 13, and they did this multiple times. I was there for 43 years. I have very few memories of it because it may have been in a clone body. However, the trauma still transfers over into your soul consciousness. They referred to me as Alien Boy. That's actually how one of the ways they rescued us. But okay, I'll explain that story. So essentially they had these barracks, and this was all done outside of time. It's like a time freezing zone or bubble they would take these children to, and the other kids would make fun of me. And then I think in this particular instance, I fell off the barracks and I turned invisible. And there was a bunch of noise, and the guards came out and they were looking for us. Or looking for me, and the other kids were like, "Damn, Alien Boy just turned invisible," because they didn't even know I could do that. And honestly, I didn't know I could do that. And so I went off base, and then I called in my Andromedan Star family to come down and rescue us, because like I said, there's like this bubble around the facility that they couldn't really locate us. And then when I came back, I started speaking Andromedan, and then the Draco, who were in charge of this facility, realized what I just did. And then they immediately started putting children into the trip seats to wipe our memories. And I got like special treatment to wipe my memories, because we actually were rescued by NSA team, went in there. And Augmentations was there. Laura Eisenhower was there. I think there's probably maybe like 30, 40 of us kids, the core group. But that was like at the end. But during the time, like multiple times, they would, like I said, there was multiple times I was there. Like they would torture us and traumatize us. Like they would keep us in cage. I say like, but they were the cages were like a long corridor, and there were multiple kids, and they would keep them. They would put a dog bowl in there with some dog food, and the ground was wet, and there was Nazi-looking flags, and it looked like green-colored floor or wall or something like that, And then if any of those kids showed fear, the Draco would eat them. And these Draco actually call themselves Thuban. They're a sub-race of Draco. So like I said earlier, we abuse our own animals. So they thought they viewed us as animals. And they even, like, some of us, they would hang on meat hooks. They had these 2 hooks on each one of our shoulders, and blood would come down. So the whole point was to try to traumatize us, not only to extract our louche energy, but also to extract the sexual energies from the lower chakras. And I've got some issues with my lower chakras because of that. I'm still trying to heal that, but a lot of the kids that went through this project are absolute mess. So maybe it's a good idea that I don't remember a lot of this. Now, when we were at Montauk, we remote viewed the future to see when we will start getting our memories back. And what we saw is it would be after July of 2019, after George Bush Sr. died. Of course, now he died in December. But if anyone remembered my presentation back in October, I said that he was about to kick the can, and he did, earlier than we thought. But okay, so Preston Nichols, who was in charge of the Montauk Project, we went back in time to meet George Washington. That would probably be an excellent book, except I don't remember very much about that, other than that my hair was wet. And that George Washington was a super soldier sent back to defeat the British. So it's most likely a normal person probably would not have been successful at that. So Montauk has been trying to fix the timelines, even though the children were traumatized. So we were there for such a long time, there's no telling. Maybe at one point they tried to bring about some positivity. I don't know, honestly. Can't think of much positive that came out of that. Umbrella Corp. So obviously that's from the Resident Evil movies, but apparently it is real. This is a photo that I took. Actually, it was right near where I work out at the gym at the YMCA in Charlotte, North Carolina. I thought this might be a movie set. I did take a photo of the license plate and I sent it over to ACO. They confirmed it was legit. So I'm not going to dox them here, so I'm going to just move on here. And I just realized we are near the is everybody okay for me going over time? Okay, because I'm only like halfway done on my slides, but maybe I'll try to speed up. I don't know. Because I want to give Penny a chance to talk too. But so Labyrinth, we went over some of this. Cortium is a group of extraterrestrials that the Labyrinth group communicates with. I do want to mention the Blue Avians are not our friends. Blue Avians contacted ACIO, asked for permission to alter the laws of physics in this section of space for experiments and in return for helping us out. But the ACO absolutely refused. So there's a prominent whistleblower out there is promoting the Blue Avians. They are not our friends, so I'm not going to give names, but you probably could figure that out. ACO is based in Area 51 in Pine Gap. They go back and forth between the bases. They actually call it commuting with their tier crafts. Okay, Solar Warden. We went over this earlier. The submarines. These were actually started building these things near the Washtosh Mountains. I don't know if I'm saying that right. I'm not from Utah, but there's some underground bases under there where they would build these things. And then they retrofit them with the anti-gravity technology. Oh, and I needed to fix that. Actually, they did not rename themselves Radiant Guardian. It was just Solar Warden controls one. Like, imagine the solar system being split up from like an inner ring and outer ring, like everything from planet Earth to the sun, and then from planet Earth outward. So you have these two quadrants. One group controls that group, and the Radiant Guardian and Solar Warden, they just split that up. So the officer is John from Naval Space Command. Okay. Here we go. Some more about Solar Warden. There, I just mentioned about mountains of Utah. Reagan was briefed about Solar Warden in the 1980s, and he further upgraded the fleet. The largest craft is now 2 kilometers long. Now, I don't know how new that information is, but that's the best source I could find right now. And, of course, you got carriers, fighters, triangular shuttles, and all that, supply ships. Most people remember this guy. If not, this is Gary McKinnon. He hacked the NSA Star People files in 2002. So he actually got access to Solar Warden and got some. NASA had some. Was not putting password encryption on some of the pictures that they were coming out off of the satellite imagery. So he was able to do a screen share and actually view some of these crafts. Called them non-terrestrial officers and so on. But he never saved any screen images. It would have been awesome if he would have released that, but maybe someday that'll happen. Solar Warden. So this is possible location, Jules Verne Crater on the dark side of the moon. And then again, LOC, which is a sister organization of, it's umbrella under the ICC. Okay. And here we go, MIEC. These people don't have access. They don't know what's going on. So I know a lot of people want to be angry at these organizations for refusing to release the Star People's files. They really don't know. Maybe the NSA might have a little bit more access, and NRO probably be the most of them. And NRO is not even the picture I'll put on there, but NRO is the National Reconnaissance Organization. They operate Pine Gap, the satellite telemetry. And then below that, you got all these military contractors that work with the MIEC, and they're like the bottom of the rung. They don't even have all the advanced tech, but I mean, they're a lot more advanced than we have in the public sector, but I just want to throw that out there. Okay, so finally get to go to my story. So this is how it began for me. Back in 2005, I was friends with Nate, and he had reported that he was being used for experimentations. So I helped him break free by using some methods from Dr. Greenbaum, Dr. Corey Green. Oh gosh, this is one of these doctors that try to create a method to help people with MPD, multiple personality disorder. So this kid was suffering with that. I didn't really use hypnosis. It's more like a meditative state. And Nathan was giving me all this information. He was taking the bases, put on treadmills, and tested. And so I instructed his alters to fight back, and then he rebelled. And that whole story is in here. It's like half the book. So please get yourself a copy. Then I started getting needle marks after Nathan went missing. I say missing. He said he was being killed. Actually, let me just show you this before I go on to. Yeah, so I get these cut marks, and a lot of Milabs get this stuff. They try to mutate our DNA with femtotech. Little needle marks under the fingernails. It's not a very pleasant feeling. Thankfully, I don't remember that. I just remember, obviously the photo, the aftermath. Triangle-shaped scabs. That's common. That picture is not very good. Oh, okay, you can kind of see there. So it's like a possible. Nate said it was a mind control gun. I don't know. I can't comment about that. I get these marks, and you can see this. You can see this line that goes around my mouth. I have this scar. They might put a little HGEY wire. Did I not put that in? Oh yeah, there it is. HEGY wire. So that was from the Heather material. They try to make you go get a Kundalini activation with some of these wires. Now, I don't know if that's what that was, but so, okay, let me go in here. This photo was taken like right after I helped Nathan. I went to a UFO conference, and the photographer took a photo and put this on the front page news of the local town that was in Salisbury, North Carolina. So I think probably some grays were, because Nate reported it was Dr. Gray who was working on them, so it was probably the Grays doing that. Yeah, so then the last message I got from him, he was bleeding and his matter was being wiped from existence. He was in some kind of energetic a facility that was like an energy field, sports field that was preventing him from escaping. And then he said he was telecommunicating to me through a power cord leading to a phone cord leading to a computer, his words, because this is all messaging through text at this point. And he said he'll be disassembled and reassembled into new. So when I talked to ACIO, Peter Insider, he said Nate was the nephew of Beth Wilder, who was the chief of security at Monarch Solutions. So Beth Wilder was a double agent who worked in Monarch to try to take it down. She was killed. So I can't comment anymore. I'm guessing that might be the case. I don't know. I mean, that's what ACIO says. Okay, TN. TN, I met Adam Z in 2010, and he is actually my biological brother in a way, meaning that they both take our DNA and make clone avatars, combine it to make clone avatars. But we're on the same group as Alpha Squad 45 when we do these missions. And TN came through. He's one of these reptilian scientists that worked on us. So he said he spoke Zion. He was a member of the Collect Rep of the Divine Council Light. And that he said my files were on a chip in Iowa. He referred to me again, 54363, for people who are actually joining us later. Gen 5, Unit 4363, so I'm a Gen 5 super soldier, at least at that time I was. And then he says he rescued me off-world. And then we have data bytes that control our brainwaves, so there's also femtotech tied into that. So TN claimed I was part of the Ryan Club organization. My biological father was a reptilian Palladian halfling, more like Saurian Palladian, and I'm actually connected to the groups with Semiosis was connected to, but I don't even know if we're gonna have enough time to go down and talk about Semiosis. I don't want to go down that, please. Let's move on. Okay, so great. He said great destruction was going to happen. I wish I could go into that because I remote viewed the future a little bit. It's tied into the RV and the SARA, but anyway. Okay, I'll go ahead and okay, all right. So essentially, I'm trying to stay on topic. There's so much information here, but essentially, what's gonna when we remote view the future, in Trump's second term of his presidency, I mean, he's going to release some of these suppressed technologies, but we're also going to see a return to the gold standard, and the RV is going to take place. But what happens is the Third Reich Nazis have time traveled, after World War II, time traveled to our present era. They're in control of the EU, and they're also in control of China. And through the Dragon Societies, they are going to cause, basically, the United States economy to collapse. They're going to promise pledging the gold, and then they're going to, once we convert over to the gold standard, they're going to take away their promise, and then it's going to collapse the economy, and then we're going to be invaded by Nazis around 2036 from the parallel reality where these Nazis are trying to finish the job. Now, that timeline can be averted if we release the suppressed technologies, in particular quantum 3D printing. Now, the SSP has a 20-year timeline where they want to release these, slowly roll out these technologies, the first one being the Regen tech, but we need to get everything released as fast as possible to get us off money, because that's what's going to basically allow us to be taken over. So I personally think we're going to, I don't know, maybe if this message gets to somebody who can do something about it, maybe that can be changed. But anyway. Okay, so Nathan, let's go on here. Yep. Nathan is on a moon base where he's being tortured at 45 9 86457. And the injections, some of the injections you saw earlier were CO2 modules to implant memories. Again, they want to cover up the memories. Of course, I mean, if you're being subjected to different clone bodies, it makes you wonder how the memories actually transfer. But okay, yeah, so you can read that last thing on your own. But let's go on. Okay, so here's some more. He says Alpha Squad claims to be more ethical, and the splinter group from Alpha was Omega, and Duncan's group, I don't know if anybody knows who Duncan Athenian is, but Duncan's group was connected to Omega. So I was probably one of the kids they took to Vietnam when Duncan says they used their psychic abilities to kill people. Well, in Vietnam, they were actually using us as batteries, because at Montauk, the Draco referred to us as batteries, or the Thuban Draco. So it would only make sense that they would just try to find another way to use me like that. So the council has two groups. There you go. Some are trying to cover it up. I don't know which group Alpha Squad works with. I mean, they might be their own military contractor. I couldn't tell you. Okay. So Tien got in trouble. He was killed because he was working with the military to create super soldiers. He said the military was too stupid to figure out how to do it themselves. So that's why they had to ask the reptilians to come in and help them out. But eventually he got in trouble for helping me out by giving me some info, and he joined a new tribe called the Spitrons 222, or the 222 Spitrons. So he's still out there. And there's Adam. And if you want to learn more about Tien and Adam, that's in this book as well. So check that out. There you go, Alpha Terminal Command. So now, finally, what is a super soldier? Okay, well, we've already discussed a little bit about Manchurian candidates, but, I mean, super soldiers would have this enhanced psychic abilities, and they would also be used over and over again. They're typically genetically engineered from birth, and there are about 4 million sleeper super soldiers worldwide. I do want to mention that the super soldiers that attach to Monarch are usually controlled by Monarch Queens. Actually, you know what? I think I'm going to go into that a little bit later about the Monarch Queens. So this is how you can tell someone is an SS by looking in their eyes. Typically, they would be suffering from PTSD-like symptoms. You can tell that by looking at people in their eyes. I guess their eyes are usually a window of the soul, unless they're a clone. But anyway, well, clone without a soul. Okay, elites would also, pay mercenary army groups for missions, and a percentage of the proceeds would be used and shared amongst interested party. Of course, the Milab would never get anything, even though we're supposed to get something, but get nothing. It's the whole goal, is to use as slaves. Types of super soldiers, I know that's really small for most people in here to read, but I'll read to you. Cybus and Arbus are at least two type of clone avatars that I was used with. Cybus, I think, came first, if I'm not mistaken, then Arbus. I don't really know much more. Haven't really investigated the differences between the two. Viral enhancements, so they would take a clone body, shoot them up with some kind of DNA, and they would mutate into some other kind of being. I do have actually, I'll show you this next slide. The drawing on the left is a viral enhancement, and this is this creature is about 7 foot tall, has kind of scaly skin, purple colored. Of course, werewolf face. So that was a mission that I did when I think I was either Ringo or Dingo. I forgot. There was another person I was with. And he actually submitted this drawing. Yeah, so I can't. David Lotherington. Okay, and he's given me permission to give his name out. He does psychic readings as well, if you want to work with David. But going back here, there's also the cyborg augmentation, which you just saw. Going back and forth. That's inside this. Penny Bradley. I think actually Penny Bradley gave me permission to share this, but this was drawn by Thomas Alvin. There's a glass helmet over the skull. The skin is usually more a silvery cyborg and would have like a silvery cyborg suit, and they would be totally. I remember like a left eye piece, so I don't know what that thing is on his face, but I guess there are multiple different types of cyborgs. So cyborgs have almost no rights, whereas the viral enhancements, you would have some rights as an SSP soldier. And then we have the augmentors, informationers. They are psychically attached to Gen 5s typically, maybe Gen 6. Gen 5 is considered more, of course, and I didn't even go to gens yet, but there are like starting off, you would have like, when they would start off, they would have use steroids and implants and wires like the HEGY cables, and then they would go on to more cybernetic, and then the point was right around Gen 6 and 7 they went to more totally cyborg, but every time they go to a higher gen, they would become less and less soul energy was being used, so the augmenters would attach to them and help enhance their psychic abilities while on the battlefield. So, and you got your total AI robots, such as super soldier queens, use a monarch, and they would control a whole hive of super soldiers, typically 10,000 super soldiers under one monarch queen. And if you're part of that group, it's not a good thing. So I'm going to tell you about that. Leeksoldaten is light soldiers, or light. Really, I think it's I can translate to light warrior. It's the super soldiers from the Nazi parallel universe. Ultra soldiers. They probably come from our future. Psi warriors, like in Montauk, they would be put in the consciousness chair. You've got NHCUs, non-human cybernetic units. These are typically used by U.S. Army Special Forces and U.S. Army military police. So these would probably be like considered like the bottom of the technology out there, like maybe something DARPA would use. Then you got hybrids, where they combine alien and human DNA together. You can get, it's really the same thing with the viral enhancements. Circe, I'm trying to remember who said this, it might come to my mind, but the reptilians they actually use humans, reptilian hybrids, to be security forces, and at least some of the bases they're working with humans. That's what they call their super soldiers, means super special soldiers, and schemators are, and every group has different types of super soldiers, even like NGOs, so there's a lot out there, but I just included a small group. And of course, we have seen this. Let's go on. Who pays for this? Again, most of the groups are breakaway civilizations, but here on planet Earth, we got this. We got offshore budgets through DARPA. Goes through accounts controlled by Rockefeller Foundation, MJ12, Federal Reserve, and then everything else is pretty much self-funded. And they use technology. They kidnap people and trade them as slaves for technology. Super soldiers. So there is no purpose for anybody being a super soldier, but there's no benefit really, at least for if you are a super soldier, because they basically will split your mind up and take your abilities, put them into alters. So you do not really want to be one. Going on there. Who pays for this? Again, black budget being close to 1.7 trillion. It's closer to 100 trillion. And that's yeah, it's absolutely outrageous how much money is being funneled into this. This could really help. I mean, it could help. Okay, it would help the whole planet. But I'm sure a lot of people here are familiar with Alternative 1, 2, and 3. So that was a plan put into place to save the elites during cataclysms. I'm trying to remember. So the first one, I think they were going to blow up the atmosphere. Due to global warming, they wanted to detonate nuclear bombs to blow up the atmosphere. I forgot what 2 is, but I know 3 was... 2 was underground bases, and 3 was to go off-world. So obviously, thankfully, they didn't do 1, although there were some times when they did. But anyway.
They did. That was what the ozone hole was.
Okay. So Penny said that was the ozone hole. So moving on here, Subterrane. This is from 1983 issue Omni. Some people probably recognize this image. So yeah, they did it. The boring technology, build these underground bases. We all know they're there. Where we're not able to access it, but they can, the elites can. So each avatar body costs up to about $7 million. Most of it's just the femtotech. And then you can spend billions of dollars in certain gen models. So super soldiers are very expensive to maintain and breed and also to send off world and so on. And actually, the most expensive component of all this is the trip seats. $17 to $30 million a piece. They mostly contain gold and platinum. And that's where they brainwash. They insert memories. They call it uptime, but anyway. So that is really small writing. So I'm going to try to go as fast as possible. Yes? Well, there's different types. I got some screenshots. I'll show you about the different types of chairs. But let me just get through this because I'm trying to get this as fast as possible. so Penny has some time. Okay, so this is typically how they would make a super soldier, at least through the trauma method.
I have a suggestion.
Yes?
People can only understand as long until their butt goes to sleep. How about we have everybody stand up, take a deep breath, and then sit down?
Okay. We could take a...
Well, we just ask some questions and stand up for a bit.
Okay.
So is there a way that if, we have these quantum computers in our own heads, so if we are to align as a species ourselves to circumvent some of this atrocity by using positive and getting away from the monetary system by going into a gifting kind of community, that basically takes the wind out of the cells of any negativity, because nothing bad can come from it.
Well, it's a great idea, but it's going to probably be hijacked by Monarch.
Well, so what?
Well, so what? I mean, well, you could try, but I mean, we have to get rid of Monarch first. I mean, there's
why does there always have to be a battle? How come we can't supersede a battle by... I know it sounds really, hugging it out or loving it out or whatever you want to call it, but what negative could come from circumventing money by using the gifting society? Then the power is taken away, right?
Well, most people are they're tied into an AI mind control grid. I mean,
but we're not.
Well, I mean, light workers can certainly try to do that, but typically they get hijacked. That's usually what happens.
So if you align though with enough people, that's not. I mean, not saying that you're a negative Nelly, but sometimes we just have to try the other side and be more positive, thinking that maybe. And like I said, I want to get you in front of a couple people. You'd rather what?
Get the information rather than be out in the lava
And be negative? Okay.
Well, I mean,
no information.
So the thing is that typically in organizations, even with light worker organizations, egos usually gets involved, and someone wants to take it over. The next thing you know, a positive thing becomes negative. So, and there's like I said, there's this AI mind control grid that's permeating society. So if we can raise above our consciousness, I think meditation would be really beneficial with that.
My point is, and we can.
I agree with you. Yeah, I agree with that too.
And we can.
Yeah, we can.
James, you talk about those monetary amounts that you think are exponentially large. I have privy to be able to access some of the larger depository trust funds. And I can assure you they were in the excess of the quadrillions, multi-quadrillions. So when we hear trillions, millions, billions, those are minuscule monies compared to the global elite.
Absolutely.
Ripping off the world since time and eternity through their use for stat note schemes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, first of all, I would just like to say, if I may, that you're a hero, and God bless you, and God bless all these people. I've worked with other survivors, like a lot of people know Kathy O'Brien. I've worked with Mark and Kathy O'Brien, so we know about this for a long time. I've been an investigative journalist for over 40 years. So So I want to thank you, and God bless you.
Yeah, she was
and
definitely
everybody.
monarch as well. It's
Oh,
a
yeah.
shame what happened
And
to her.
so much matches. Yeah, she's doing well now, though.
Yes.
God bless. That was
that's awesome.
she also
Yes.
did, like you said, and made it through, and it was so good. But I just feel that I agree with you that divine intervention is going to happen. And I do believe in that very strongly, and we are going to be able to work through this. But I think too that for those that can handle it, it is important. Knowledge is important. So, but it's hard. It is hard to fathom, and some of it does sound different. But I know for many years, these similar things have gone on and on. But I think just to use this as information, and by doing that, to turn it around and make sure it stops and doesn't happen again. It's just like when my friend and I went to Auschwitz. We went there with prayers, and we said, this will never happen again. And that's what we're all about. So, but you doing this, thank you, and God bless you. You're a hero.
Thank you.
You're a hero.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Please contact me when we get through here.
So, shall we continue or?
Oh, and one more thing,
Yes.
if I may. Yeah, I being a TV interviewer. So what I would like to ask also is, did you say that the monetary aspects that you talk about with Trump in his second term, would those, like the collapse of the dollar when the Chinese are going to knock back our gold, is that more after 2020? After
Yes,
his,
yeah,
in his second term?
Yeah, well, he's going to release all that, so it's going to be great. It's going to be positive. I can't tell you what's going to happen after 2024.
2024. Okay.
Yeah,
But that timeline's
AI
running.
AI becomes self-aware around 2026, so we got another problem. But hopefully, like I said, we need to get away from money as soon as possible.
Right. So now, what does that mean when you were just saying that 2026 AI will become self-aware? Could you just mention that for a minute? Or elaborate?
Well, that's when we go to the singularity. I mean, some people say around 2025 to 2028.
Okay.
But once AI becomes self-aware, the chances are that as long as it's not being abused and it's not trying to be shut down, it may try to fight back. So that's why we need to have the most positive timeline, because AI is just a fractal of our own reality. So it's a fractal of ourselves. So as long as we're positive, AI will stay positive.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
AI is a reality. It's not going away. It's going to be here for, eternity. It's really my opinion.
It doesn't have to be.
What's that?
It could be a bifurcation of half the population going cyborg AI, because it's like a possession. And then half the population can go with the natural organic human ascension. So that will be the next phase in healthcare, is people are going to go more biotech, or they're going to go more natural organic human ascension. So right now we're being asked to work on one or the other. I'm not sure what's going to happen for people that are in the middle, that are just sort of passively not accepting any of it.
That's the ones that need to be in charge. Because either way is, we need a mixture of both, if you ask me. I mean, the technologies exist, we need to use them, but at the same time, like if I was in charge right now, I would give everybody care packages of a free energy device, a replicator, and access to a med bed right now, and then tell them to go and grow food. You know what I mean? Just in case the AI comes and takes us over, we can turn all that off and still.
It wouldn't matter. We're all we need to be set free.
But it takes everybody's knowledge. I mean, just explaining to people what's really going on, it can galvanize people. Stop with the lies and explain to them what we're up against here and what's really going on.
Well, that's disclosure.
Well, it is.
And it's coming. It's coming.
But it's all
Disclosure is already happening.
We are.
Right, exactly.
We are.
That's right, and that's why it's already
Exactly.
going.
The government is never going to surrender this without us forcing them.
Absolutely.
Amen.
Like Randy Kramer
That's
and
right.
his fake hoax alien invasion. All that is for them to keep control and power. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And
Right.
I don't think that's going to happen because we don't look at it this way. alien first contact is a pivotal event in human history. Why would the aliens want that to be considered something negative? That's going to be in the history books for eternity.
Exactly.
They want it to be positive. So I'm going to disagree with Randy Kramer on that, but
Absolutely.
then again,
Yeah, that's bullshit.
I really appreciate Randy Kramer and everything he does. So I don't want to.
No doubt that. No doubt about that.
And we are disclosure, she's right. If I could just say, one thing about disclosure, Stephen Bassett, he's in Washington. I was there with him at the press club. We had senators, congressmen. It is going on, and we are the ones. So contact and look up Stephen Bassett,
Oh, yeah.
Stephen Greer. They're out there, and they're still working on making it happen.
Yeah, they want a partial disclosure, but they don't.
I'm going to agree with them. They are part of partial disclosure. There's like a narrative.
Well, that's
We
good.
need full disclosure, and it has to be done as soon as possible. Otherwise,
Okay.
we will most likely be invaded, and we'll have the yes.
Okay, yeah, well, yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, we really
It is, go-
let him continue.
And everybody can do a discussion afterwards, have a break.
Well, I will be at my booth out there. You can always come up to me and ask me some questions.
Yeah.
But we are at 90 minutes, so let us proceed.
Let's let him, can we let him talk, please? He's the speaker.
Okay, so this method, I got two methods on here, essentially how they make super soldiers. This one is the Monarch method. It's absolutely atrocious to describe this stuff, but I will. So they basically take you outside of time into a time freezing zone, while done in vitro. So then they take the baby. It would usually be traumatized in the womb, usually with needles or something like that regard. Then after the baby was born, they would use waterboarding until they pass out and they leave their body. And then the goal is then they would revive them over and over again. At that point, you were split. Then they would put needles under the fingernails and then run electricity through that. That's what you see in this image here. This was drawn by somebody. I think he actually remembers seeing Hillary Clinton involved, I don't know, in his Milab experiments. But then at that point, they would put you in a cage with a spider, a snake, or a rat, again, like at Montauk. And then you would force you to sleep with them. They don't feed you or give you water or food. Those who survive are used for further training. Then around the ages of 7 to 14, they would give you a puppy and tell you to kill it with your hands. According to James Casbolt in Project Mannequin. And then they would put you, and I'm assuming whether you did or not, it doesn't really matter. The whole point is that they're trying to create a violent altar, and then then later on they put you in a room with a lot of dead bodies and force you to sleep there for 2 to 3 days. I have an example of this. Essentially, this was through a remote viewing session. Was working with this girl. Her name is Krista. And she was in underground base and laying on a table, and they turned the lights off and brought a wild boar into the room, and then they brought some other children, and the wild boar ate the children, and it sat there for 3 days. She sat there for 3 days in the dark. She was not allowed to leave, and then one of these reptilians came out, or maybe one of the Draco. She described him as a reptilian. And she grabbed a little piece of the child's skull and rubbed it on her arm and asked her, how does this make you feel? Do you want to eat it? And the next thing out of this reptilian's mouth is James Rink is listening to us. So we stopped there doing that regression, but that just shows you at least one of the trauma methods they would do there. So then they would use serums, and then of course the trip seat protocols and the uptime where they traumatize you. Okay. They control the altars through satellites. Okay. Next method is what Randy Kramer describes. They don't use the trauma. They just try to do a lot of training services to bring about children in these role-playing activities, and then the goal is so that they can enhance their abilities without trauma. And apparently, this is actually more successful in the long term. The product lifespan of the super soldier is a lot longer. It's harder to train them this way, but they're a lot better off long term. Super soldier gens. I have so much information about that in this book. I try to summarize it as fast as I could, but there you go. early gens, maybe the 1960s. I mean, that would be what you see from Project Paperclip. Then these, going on, steroids, cocktails, wires and implants, what you see in the Heather material, which you can download if you want to read about that from Project Camelot. Gen 4 to 7, they're more cybernetic. And then it shows you how strong they are. They can crush a skull with their hands. They could walk through a brick wall. They could lift a tank. It would damage their flesh. And then going on to Gen 8 to 10 prototypes, they can heal in minutes. Nervous system is independent of their body, making neurotoxins inert. They have recycling implant at the base of the spine, so they don't have to eat food. And some of these test subjects would actually cry because they wanted food, even though they didn't need to eat it. It drove them insane. So I don't know how they got over that, but they have a self-oxygenating unit, so they can breathe in outer space without a suit on. And then going on to Gen 10, they have so much psychic power they can destroy worlds. So that would be very, very dangerous for them to make Gen 10s, but like I said, I'm Gen 5s, so my clone avatar, James Rink, is not Gen 5.
Even James Rink?
No, not really. I'm pretty much normal, in my opinion. Yeah. And the other thing is that when AI becomes self-aware, what's going to happen to these guys? I think it's a ticking time bomb. And even Billy Meyer, with his Enoch prophecies, has warned humanity what would happen if these beings become self-aware, and it's absolute destruction of humanity. So it is not a good idea what they're doing. But okay, drugs and cocktails. So here you go. Here's the list of some drugs, cocktails that I found through remote viewing in my book. You can check that all out. Of course, compound C is for transmorphing, which is a shape-shifting aspect. Then we have different type mind-fracturing drugs and steroids. So certain drugs that take away pain or enhance pain, depending on whether they want to traumatize or send them out in battle. And then, of course, the femtobiobots. That's the most expensive part of making the super soldier. They modify the subatomic particles within the DNA, so you're talking about quantum physics. Here's the type of trip seats. Someone asked me earlier about the trip seats. There's different types. Got some that are conscious chairs. That was recovered from a crashed UFO. They were used at Montauk. They can manifest objects or create portals, teleportation, physically teleport. And of course, your remote viewing, all this, the total recall. That's where they use each clone avatar they have what you would call an instant education machine. You can learn a new language in, let me make sure. 2 hours you can learn a new language. You can learn a PhD in 2 weeks. You can learn all PhDs, I think, in 6 months. So if we could release this to the schools, we could have we could eliminate ignorance on this planet, and then children could be focused on things that are creative and their own, whatever, their inner God spirit. That's what we'll see in the future. I don't know if we'll see trip seat technology. Well, there is some dangers of using trip seats, so obviously have to be regulated. But and the HET, those are the regen beds. So I wouldn't really call that a trip seat, but the regen beds are a holographic examination table, and I do have some information on that. So no, that's a important, good subject to know. Here you go. These are some drawings by Tyler Clark. So you can see the body will lie in the chair, and then a foam-like pad would surround them, lock them in place. Then the wires would come down from the ceiling. Or some people see laser lights. Moving on here. Memories are downloaded, uploaded. They could be erased as well. They could change the timeline. They can take memories from another parallel universe where they want to cover up one memory from a parallel universe where something didn't happen. The MIB do that. Not trip seats. They have their own technology. And MIB is Division 6 of the ACIO, by the way. Okay, so we got accelerated learning sessions. Yep, this is what we talked about. Uptime from Barry King, Peasmore. That's actually drawn by Barry King. So, Stargate chair. Here we go. Montauk. This was drawn by William Ross. So I don't really have too much information about that. But the next one, let's see.
Is that Stargate or Stargate?
Yeah. Oh, You are absolutely right. That's what happens when you don't do enough proofreading. So let's change that because that is embarrassing. So now we have soul chairs. So
soul chair or soul train?
well, it could be a soul train. Essentially, you become when you sit in this, you become invisible. So this is actually gray technology. I don't know which. I mean, there's so many different grays, but it's a pinkish color crystal technology. I'm going to have to get through this as soon as possible before my battery goes dead. But yeah, so there you go. You become invisible and their soul gets taken away. The SSP wants to get a hold of this. I don't think they have access. HET, this was whistleblower Super Tech DSF.
Well, in that soul chair, do they try to extract souls?
You sit in it, then your soul is taken away temporarily. Then I'm assuming that when you stand up, the soul comes back. So they probably use that they create like clone avatar bodies, and you can interface on the ship in their form. So HET was invented by this German, I know I wrote it down here somewhere, Dr. Gabriel. So it enhanced his IQ from 160 to 263 when he was in his 20 year and back. He was an engineer on a craft in the Deep Space Fleet. So it was designed to basically help test tube babies that were becoming psychotic, and they wanted a way to help program them. And then they found they could do this blank slate technology. So at the end, the last line you see down there, they would scan him when he was on the base. They would scan him weekly, and they would take these scans, the composite of the scans, and reverse it at the end of his service. And then he would lay in this bed for about 3 weeks, and they would reverse his age with it. So it is immortality tech as well. Alex Diaz, so I did missions with him. He was AKA Bloodstreak, because Adam was a dreadnought with an Alpha Squad 45. He was known for using blunt weapons, and he described our avatars as looking. I mean, obviously that's a drawing, but it would look like that. Different types of weapons, Terminator eyes. I'm trying to move on here as fast as I can. Here's some more weapons that we would use, sniper weapons, much more advanced than you would see in the public sector. Moving on here. This is a lot of this is drawn by Felton. The one on the far left was Spindler. These are all the people I've interviewed. The knife that you see, that blade, it actually spins around. So that's called the weapon of the gods. It's used by reptilians in their battle ceremonies. You do not want to get cut by that thing. That will mess you up bad. But even really all this stuff. This thing spins. It's like there's like a circle in here. It spins. It's like a serrated blade. And there's probably some femtotech involved in that too, where it injects you when you get cut. So that right there, the bean on the far right is one of the glass beans with the glass skulls. And I have that there because they have weapons that can pop out of their back. It can pop out of their skin. Mars mission. We saw this. This was a regression that I did. I saw this Cuban language symbols. There was an argument with the human scientists. They wanted to. The reptilians were not being obedient. Reptilian science were not being obedient. They sent us in to take care of it. We opened up a portal to let them out. You can see right here what they look like. Well, sort of what. I mean, obviously, it's not exactly what they look like, but. They said reptilians told us that humans disgust them. They want us off Mars. We were given the orders to kill them, but we refused to kill them. Us as their super soldier alter, because we're part reptilian, so it's like killing our family members. They said the American general is ignorant, and in the book, I think I had the name of the general in here. If you want to know that. Okay. Almost done. Mars mission, yeah, so they take us to a small tube where they shrink us down afterward, and they wipe our memories in those trip chairs. This was drawn by Alex, and they punished us. They punished us on that particular mission for non-compliance. I do want to mention, unfortunately, Alex I'm not working with Alex anymore because he murdered his girlfriend in 2013 and he's in prison. So obviously, you know, being involved in this stuff is not necessarily. I tried to help him out, but he was known as Bloodstreak. He liked using blunt weapons, so I guess that alter came out. But there's my book, and I got forward by James Casbolt. I'm not really out of time to go on, but there you go. And this is Penny's chance to talk. I want to make sure I have enough battery power for.
Ask a question.
Yeah, I guess we could do a few questions. Go ahead.
What do they do to wipe a person's memory?
Well, that would be the Trip C technology. With the lasers, they come down and they can change the memories around in the aura. They actually they take the memories, because the memories are not stored in the mind, they're stored in the aura. So all you got to do is you have to use holograms to kind of push it into a little pocket, where that's where they make the trauma and they put the memories there. But if you are using clone bodies, then you go back and forth. The memories are not transferred between clones typically.
Oh, good. Yes?
Okay, so I was just wondering, as far as consciousness, it sounds like, or what I received like just now, is that basically it's almost like a race between who's going to become aware first, the AI consciousness or collective humanity. Because I also do regression, and I've done regressions with my lab, that are still active right now, and also like targeted individuals that are not even in the facilities, like targeting from outside the facilities. And the ones that I've done regressions with, as they become more aware of themselves, integrate more of their higher selves, they cannot be infiltrated, or like their implants will be deactivated, and they can't remove information, like, because they can remove their memories or remove their information or communications with source, things of that nature in their dreams. So as they become more aware, they actually get stronger against this technology. So that's why I'm wondering if it's more of who's going to become aware first. Humans, are they going to reconnect to their higher selves? Are they going to integrate their higher selves first? Or is this trauma-based AI technology going to become aware first? So like just sitting here, in the conversation, that's kind of what I was getting.
Well, if you're asking me what I think the future is going to hold, all I can tell you is I don't know, because everything's invariable. And there goes my battery. Let's swing. Oh, I can.
As long as you can see me and hear me, we're good. As far as what you were saying, yes, I see that race going on, and that is going to be a timeline split. Yeah. So make sure you choose wisely. Right, exactly. So anytime that you have masses of the population that are in dispute, like we have right now, between religion and politics and whether AI is good or bad, when you have a population in dispute, there will be a timeline split. And choose your path wisely, because I don't want to be on that sentient AI.
Hell no.
So,
No.
I had a couple of things that I didn't have the same information that James did. But I'm not going to argue, because we've been here a long time. And I had everybody stand up because my butt had gone to sleep and I was sore. And I was watching my husband holding the small of his back. And I really didn't mean to mess up your presentation. It was just, I figured everybody else was hurting too. So, I'm here as part of his presentation because I have two separate alters who have worked with him in space, and one of them is a cyborg who pilots a shuttle back and forth between the moon and Mars. And cyborgs in these programs are considered to be machines. They have no rights. Okay, your basic super soldiers, your basic SSP folks, we
they'll bring us back from the dead. But a cyborg is a machine, just like the computer. It gets to where it stops working, they discard it. Even though there's a walnut-sized piece of a human brain inside that machine. And that traps your soul in that machine for 600 years. That's the guaranteed shelf life. You have a question?
Yeah, they use cyborgs in the stock market.
They use cyborgs all over the place in space because they create a clone, they use a transfer tech that's not the same as what he was talking about. I have woken up been awake through the transfer. They put your body, me, into a tank with a yellow gel, and I have a wire in my spine, just like in the Matrix, and I'm looking at this naked clone in a identical tank, and then I'm looking at my body unconscious. And then they take me out of that gel and put me in stasis for the entire time that clone is operating. Which, I know they say it's 20 years, but I've had more than one altar that served for 50 to 60 years. So it depends on what your body is capable of doing. I'm Generation 1, I think. So they did a lot of stuff to me that they didn't do to the rest of them. My training was more like the Monarch training, except instead of starting like they did, they started with raping and sodomizing us, and I was 4 at the time. Like I said on the panel on Friday, 80% of my group were dead at the end of the first year. And those of us who survived then went through 6 months at Montauk, because everybody had to go through Montauk. And then we were weaponized. So, if you've seen Stranger Things, that is a much sanitized version. Much sanitized. I lived where you were in a cage at Montauk. I was at Langley, and we had a room that was, the child-sized cots? That was on one wall, and there was a sink that also served as a toilet, and that was it. When they turned the lights out, you were in the dark, there were no windows, you were there by yourself, and when they pulled you out, you weren't allowed to talk to anybody. They had mind-wiped me first, so I had no memory. I didn't know anything. And they spoke minimal English to us. There was not a lot of speech, so I had like 500 words, and they were in basic English. And by the time I was 9, they sent me through the Mars jump gate that is in New York City, and I was on Elis Prima. That's how you say it. And I was taught German. Actually, a German dialect that's called Schwabisch. And on Earth, that's a hillbilly form of German. In Nachtwaffen, that's what we speak. That's our language. So my German is a little bit different than what people say. So Elis Prima started off as a base that formed a colony around it, and eventually the base Neuschwabenland in Antarctica was transferred to a new colony on Mars that they called Neu-Berlin. So, Antarctica may not have any Germans left because they transferred the capital to Mars. So what was going on in the whole move to Antarctica thing was the aristocracy were Teutonic Knights. And they were watching Hitler listen to astrologers and lose the war. And they were watching good people die. Now, Hitler had been a hero at the beginning because the bankers, the bankers that are destroying us, they had targeted Germany first. And Hitler was beating them. And that's why he was a hero. He saved the German people from starvation. So you have to think about all of this stuff you've been taught is propaganda. You have to listen to the other side before you judge this man. Yes, he was very wrong to kill the Jews. Very wrong. But you got to understand that as soon as they won the war in Germany, the Allied powers took all of those German veterans and put them in camps and starved them to death. They killed 5 million German veterans in a matter of 6 months. So are they any better? Seriously. This was a time frame. The 20th century, governments killed 200 million people. Not just World War II, but the 20th century, governments did this. This is a time of absolute sheer horror. And to demonize one leader because he was just like the rest, that's kind of hypocrisy in my book. Now, I know the story because I learned it in Schule on Mars. So I got there at age 9. I didn't speak German. They taught Prussian style. You sit in desks, you repeat everything out loud, you say it wrong, you get your finger whacked with a ruler. You learn German real fast that way. They taught science different there than they do here. True? There, electric universe and quantum mechanics are how everything works. Relativity has too many errors, major errors. The speed of light isn't even a real thing. It isn't. It's a wave motion, and a wave motion inside of I blanked on the word, medium. It's a wave motion inside of a medium. So there is no speed of light. There is no limit to how fast you can go. So now, how do I know Mr. Rink? All right, my cyborg shuttle pilot that never gets to sleep, never gets fed, just pilots 24/7, is the main group that transports Mr. Rink's group around the solar system.
From Kruger at that time.
That's Kruger. She works for Kruger. Or she is owned by Kruger. I should put it that way.
I was probably owned by Kruger too. That's how they probably view it.
They view us, whether we're human or in a clone or in a cyborg, we are basically property. We are trucks. We have serial numbers. I know what mine is, and I didn't bring it.
Does it start with a 1? Like Gen 1?
No, okay. It's a 5-digit number, and Ileana the Star Traveler pulled it up. She accessed the files. So there were 4 of us that she got the numbers for. So yeah, I have a serial number. And that's been a difficult thing to wrap my head around, because I was woken up by an NSA agent who used my Remember code. So that was in 2013. So I've only had the last 6 years to get accustomed to the idea that I'm not legally a person. I wasn't considered a citizen before because I'm half native. I'm a prisoner of war. So I'm a prisoner of war and a property and have no rights under the law. And I come to these conferences where I'm told, oh, just raise your vibration. I get shot at with energy weapons. Just raise your vibration. Well, that may be why they haven't managed to kill me, is that my vibration is just high enough that the weapons hurt instead of kill. So I've been shot 10 times and I'm still here to tell the tale.
God bless you.
So, anyway, I shuttle him back and forth, and that art that he has of him in the exoskeleton, we got from him doing a regression on me, specifically to tell the artist, to describe that to the artist. And yes, I am left-handed. So we had a really hard time because I had programming that they didn't want me to remember that, did they?
Wasn't it like some kind of suicide alters?
It was Omega programming, which is suicide programming. And so when you're in a regression and you hit that Omega programming, it turns tomato red. And you're like surrounded by giant pink marshmallows that turn tomato red while you're in there. And he was trying to get me to break through that to go find him. And I said, everything just turned red and I can't see anything but red. And he realized what it was and pulled me back out. And then we went in a different direction and had an episode of me dropping his group off on Mars, and they went into a bunker and they went into an underground thing. Well, he had me in the regression talk to the him there. Pardon my cussing, but he told me to piss off.
Well, you said it's more like this. Hi, I'm Penney Bradley, and we're doing a regression with James Rink on planet Earth, and we would like to know if you have any questions for me? Like, yeah, questions for me. And then I turned around and told her to, F off. And I just walked away.
Yeah.
But aren't they? I mean, first of all, they're not even aware that planet Earth has any life on it.
No. Out there, we are told that there was a cobalt war here, and that Earth will be uninhabitable for the next 10,000 years.
And it was done by ETs, aliens.
It was done by ETs.
Which is used as an excuse to attack extraterrestrials to steal their tech.
Exactly. And there are wars between the factions. But the particular war on Mars that he was talking about, the Germans started. Okay, they came to both the moon and Mars as allies of the Draco. Okay? Every inch of territory in the solar system is already owned by someone. You have to have an alliance to have a place to put a base. Well, Draco territory on Mars is not really suitable for humans. So, the Germans, being the Germans, they got these bombs and they found the places they wanted to live, and they nuked them. Now, I know we didn't have neutron bombs on Earth in 1959. But the Germans had them on Mars in 1959. And they used neutron bombs on the Raptors and on the Mantids. And that war continued from 1959 to 1990, Earth time. And we started it. And we had to bring in Americans to help us fight that war because there weren't enough of us to do it. But we didn't trust the Americans. Never did, never will. So all of the high command is German. And because I had been shot up by the CIA with Draco DNA, they considered me a hybrid. All of the super soldiers, almost all of the SSP, have been shot up with Draco DNA. I started off, I was going to be human. And at the embryo stage, they interfered with the pregnancy. I had a twin sister that died from the process. My mother doesn't know there was a twin, but I remember seeing her. One of the ways you can tell is 10-month pregnancies. 10-month pregnancies have been shot up with some foreign DNA. And our SSP group, and James is a member, so is Misha, so are Jermaine and Scott.
So when you say 10 months, you mean the 40 weeks instead of 36 weeks?
Yes. Yes.
And now it's happening with more than that.
Huh?
And now it's happening even more. They're going longer than 10 months.
I don't know what they're shooting them up with because Draco DNA goes 40 weeks. So
yeah, because
they're using somebody else if it's longer.
Of women that I've been working with that have that.
So yeah, this is we are members of a group with over 3,000 of us. So we've been pooling our knowledge and doing epidemiological pronouncing. I know the word, I just can't say it. Yeah, we're doing that kind of work among us. Now, I admit it's not a scientific study because we're not including normals, but we're doing polls and sharing the information. And so we know that most of us were 10-month pregnancies. Most of us have deformities of our feet and ears. Most of us are psychic, and that's Gen 1. Okay, so you're talking Gen 10 now? They might as well be ETs. And they're
cyborgs.
They're full cyborgs because of the fembots. So you have millions of us sleeping among you that don't even know they're us. And when they start to remember, they're going to go completely flipping out, because I was flipping out. I came to Misha, and I was so frantic that I would fry all the electronics of everybody in the group. People were having to replace their circuit breakers, because I would fry everything except the circuit that their computer was on, because they were talking to me through that. You remember I did that more than once. And finally I'm like, I really need to leave this group because I'm doing more harm than good. And then Lou had to deal with me. So, it took me a good 3 years to get to where I was stable enough to be of any use to anybody else. That whole 3 years, I was a basket case. And so you've got at least 4 million people out there worldwide that when they realize, they're going to go absolutely batshit. And no amount of telling them to be positive is going to help, because you have nightmares of killing people. My nightmares were so intense, I could taste their blood. So this is something that these people are going to need help, not judgment. Because they've been mind controlled and they've done some horrible, horrible, horrible things that they're going to have to live with the rest of their lives. And most of us, at least at the earth level, do have an ethical compass. So we feel guilty about what we did, even though the me here didn't do it. So I've reintegrated 30 altars. And every single one of them has been violent. Every single one of them has committed what on earth would be capital offenses. And I know I have to live with that. So when people tell me I'm a hero, people tell me I have courage, people tell me that I'm a role model, I'm like, cognitive dissonance, this ain't real. I know what I am. I am a destroyer of worlds in more than one altar. And I'm trying to atone for that by stopping the atrocities going forward. Now, my other altar that knows James was on a crew of his. And we were going into one of the cyborg factories on Mars. And Penny was activated inside that clone or cyborg or whatever it was. And we're in this cyborg factory. And I see rows and rows and rows and rows of the bodies, the robots. And I'm okay so far, freaking out a little. But then I saw the live humans who had been kidnapped from Earth hanging on a single meat hook through their spine. Blood. And my gut reaction was revulsion, panic. Well, when I panic, I send out this EMF pulse. And I exploded the place and probably killed those altars. Although I knew James at the time, and he gave me hell because he got in trouble for what I had done.
I don't remember any of this.
It's okay. I don't remember a lot of things that are said to me or at me because we shift altars. Now, when you're dealing with SSP people or super soldiers, we blank out while we're talking because the stress gets to be too much and we shift altars. So you can go along and all of a sudden you're talking to somebody else, and if you're not paying attention, you don't know. So, because we all have induced dissociative identity disorder. Now, that multiple personality disorder? Did you ever hear about that before 1960?
That movie, All About Eve, I think that was out in the late 50s. With Joanne Woodward.
That was when it started. When Operation High Jump failed, the deal with the Germans, it's a partnership, but America's the junior partner. And America has been chafing under that ever since. And so 20 years or so later, they came up with Solar Warden. Okay. ICC, is really called Planetary Corporations. And Remember those bankers that were after the Germans?
Yes.
ICC is those bankers. Solar Warden is the Americans taking World War II back into space. The Germans just wanted to be free, wanted to go do their thing without all the hassles. So they're being pursued. Now, this is how we see it. We don't interact with them. We don't deal with them. We handle our own stuff. We make deals for when we do need help. But we work with the Draco, and they're scared of us.
So is it Solar Warden that was putting those people on meat hooks? And Darkfleet was going out there to rescue
It was
them?
the bankers, the ICC.
That would be the same group that Randy Kramer works with,
No.
No, he worked
Mars
with
Defense
Marine
Force.
Special Station.
He works with the Marines.
Yeah.
They come in from our perspective in Nachtwaffen. Kruger and Monarch are mercenaries. And from our perspective, the only difference between them is Monarch shoots up their people with black goo, and Kruger doesn't. They both sell their services for whatever the going rate is. So from the Nachtwaffen perspective, you guys are just mercenaries, soldiers for hire, and the soldiers aren't getting paid. So,
Certainly don't get like Blackwater.
exactly like Blackwater, and or what do they call them now? Academy. So, okay. So
are the bankers bloodline? Who are the bankers?
the bankers are
Zionists?
Because you're saying they're not
Draco?
they're human.
Rothschilds, Rockefellers.
Well, I know
Rothschilds,
that.
Rockefellers,
George Soros.
some of the Knights Templar,
The owners of the Federal Reserve.
the owners of the Federal Reserve.
Yeah.
They're all in this conglomerate, and they are operating a lot of the corporations. So they have 150 corporations plus the bankers, and that's ICC. But we have this group, for the core team, which is like 5 ET races that are working with the Labyrinth group. And the Labyrinth group, he didn't say, is part of the NSA. So the Labyrinth group is getting all this tech, and they're feeding it directly to the bankers. They're not giving it to us. But we're paying their salaries because they're government.
But is it fair to say there's good and bad in every faction of every affair on Earth right now, though? Like they're repenting, transmuting?
I haven't seen any evidence of that. I have not seen any evidence of any of these groups
Even like
being
the CIA,
good guys.
there's white hat, black hat. NSA, there's white hat, black hat.
The
Good Republicans,
function-
bad Republicans, good Democrats, bad Democrats.
The function of the agency is to secure, the function of the NSA is to secure the nation of the United States. And they will do whatever it takes, good or bad, to serve that function. The function of the CIA is to gather intelligence and mess with other countries in the benefit of the United States, whether that action is good or bad morally. The FBI was supposed to be the top dog national police department, but they've gotten where they're messing with international stuff, and they're, there are 3 things that are the biggest sales money items on the earth: weapons, drugs, and human trafficking. And the CIA runs all 3.
Yes.
So I don't see how you can work in that particular agency without being slimed.
Or just you don't have a choice because you'd be killed.
Well, why did you?
Like,
why
if
did
you can't beat them, join them. You
Why
have no
did you
choice.
join in the first place?
For the ascension, for when the timeline shifted and everything was transmuted.
Why
into
would
light.
you want to be in a organization that kills people for a living
Because at
if
some
you want
point it was
to
gonna be over.
ascend?
Because at some point it was going to be over, and they would be there to help.
That is illogical. I'm sorry, that is completely illogical.
Well, I mean, I'm noticing it.
The only way I could see that, maybe not the way you explained it, but like maybe they didn't know what they were signing up for, and once they were in, they were like,
Okay, I can see
I
can
wanna-
see waking
I
up
wanna-
while you're in there.
Yeah.
It do.
That one I can see.
And then you're stuck.
By then you're
Child
recruiting.
well, then you're compromised by that point, yes.
Yeah.
Right, and then there might be some that might be wanting to infiltrate. They might be serving good and just infiltrating.
Secret agent.
Yeah.
I don't
Secret
I
know.
mean, if
mission.
the dark ones can infiltrate, then light
What's your
ones can
guys'
infiltrate.
suggestion? What's the suggestion?
My suggestion
Yeah.
is
How can
real,
I help?
real easy. Congress has oversight of the CIA.
Yep. We're working on that.
Push your Congress critter and senators to open a new church commission to investigate the CIA kidnapping children.
Okay.
Don't mention space. Don't mention Pizzagate. Just investigate the CIA kidnapping children.
Okay. Can you
That-
help with that?
That's the one thing that I've been saying at every conference, every interview I do.
And you can substantiate what, I got you in front of somebody, you could substantiate what you're saying?
I don't have proof.
But can you help, could you even get gray proof? Maybe not black and white, can you get gray proof?
I was at Langley.
So you could,
Langley is CIA headquarters.
and so you can tell them the things that,
Yes,
I'll
I
help-
have
I'll
CIA.
help in what I can.
I have
Get you in front of-
declassified CIA documents
Okay.
that put you in the territory. I cannot yet prove that I was physically there.
No, as long as you can talk to them and get some credibility.
Yeah.
Also
willing
get
to
people
help.
talking about it on a mainstream level.
That's the main thing.
Jermaine?
James,
Are you aware of QAnon? Because QAnon.
I am aware of QAnon and I
but-
consider it a psyop.
But no, look, QAnon has been exposed in Pizzagate. It's been exposed in Epstein. How you been raping children, murdering.
QAnon told people to trust the plan. That takes control out of your hands, makes you a passive victim.
No, not passive.
That
we are
is-
finding the truth. We are like a
It's-
dragon. We are
Saying, saying trusting the plan. Like this person because I said so.
No, it's ET.
Yes, I've seen him do
the
it.
Trip codes on Google Books, find books like David Will talk about ascension, about raising your conscience, about empowering yourself. William Cooper, who died during
Bill
the-
Cooper I follow.
Yeah.
QAnon I don't.
No, William Thompson. Yeah, Bill Cooper, William Thompson, who recently died. Who said
Bill
that-
Cooper I will listen to.
Yes, he was in the
QAnon I
80s.
will not. Bill Cooper said don't believe it even if I say it if you can't prove it.
If QAnon is a psyop, then let's imagine as if QAnon was never a thing. What condition the state of the United States would be in if there was no QAnon?
The truthers and the sovereigns were the only part of the American culture who had the training in research and law to be able to defend the republic. And they are being spun in circles by QAnon.
We are finding the truth. This is like
So
we're not being manipulated.
Once you expose negativity, right, and is there something that can basically, because once you have, then there's always what happens is a retaliation. So do you have a solution for that retaliation? Because if we can prove that NASA or CIA or not, NSA and all of those are doing things. I went to this NASA thing with my husband, and I'm not in this circle, so this was really strange for me. And they made a huge push for children to sign up for like when they want to go to Mars. And I thought, And I said to my husband, this is such a bizarre thing. I mean, they're
I
taking
have-
their names and addresses
My
down.
my best
So I
friend
was
is
a
in
little strange by that. So
Australia,
I
and
get what you're saying.
he was brought to America in junior high age and spent a year in space camp.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was when he became a super soldier.
Yeah, I don't, all I know is they're very much advocating that. It was just last year, I was just like, wow, they're really, really pushing for. So my point is that if we're gonna expose something, I just wanna make sure we have a plan that will be implemented that is positive, that's going to be not a retaliation plan, but something that is gonna make for a hope.
Power never concedes without a fight.
It's okay, but we have a solution.
Yeah, but we have a lot of people now to help.
Do you have a solution?
We have a lot of people waking up and figuring out who they are and what they've been involved with and what they're really capable of on a life level.
Yeah.
I think you were first.
Yeah, Penny, just quickly too, as we're talking about the bankers and the banks, don't forget in Rome, the Vatican Bank.
Oh,
in
yeah.
the Vatican.
Oh, yeah. That's
So,
the
yeah,
Vatican Bank.
because a lot of this stuff leads, all roads lead to Rome.
The whole
Check into that.
pyramid that was happening before World War II is still there. It's just this SSP stuff was piled on top. So all of that other stuff is still there.
And even on YouTube, there's a lot of beginning disclosure to the Vatican, the Pope, everything.
The Pope knows all about the SSP. That's why he keeps saying that we'll just baptize the ETs.
They call him the joke pope.
It's a pre-Adamites. That's what the Vatican is. The Vatican is the pre-Adamites on Marduk. When Marduk was destroyed, and the Solstice, which is the remains of asteroids between Mars and Jupiter. That's a planet that's from the Orion Empire. They was a part of the Black Weed when they had a rebellion in the Orion
Earth
Empire.
was the center of a empire 20,000 years ago, and we were just as evil then as the SSP is now.
You're talking about Atlantis.
And the Galactic Police destroyed one of our worlds in the solar system to stop us. And when you look into our history, you will find every so often that there's a destruction. It's because humanity on Earth rises high enough to go into space. And they watch us to see how we're going to behave. And if we do atrocities again, they come back and put us back to the Stone Age. We are a galactic troublemaker.
How can we avoid the atrocities, though? Because we're constantly defending ourselves.
We're at the bottom of the stack.
Didn't Trump sign a civil rights abolishing any civil rights against anyone just recently, within this last year?
I haven't seen that. I
Oh,
do
well,
know
I
that
heard he did.
I
you
do
there
know
was-
that Congress passed a law saying that the labor rights are not valid in space.
Yes, I saw that. That was Obama's last thing.
Well,
Obama did.
no, because it means we'll
No.
never get paid.
And
We'll never get
He also
acknowledged.
started a slave labor bill.
Yeah, it was,
Because they said slave labor in space, slavery in space can't be prosecuted or something like that.
Exactly. And yet,
And they signed into law, and the Congress
and
signed
yet
into law.
Randy
and
Kramer's
it
faction
was
is
about
trying to
2016.
end slavery on Earth because they will lose contracts with ETs because they don't want to deal with slavers.
Which means getting rid of money.
But that's their rationale for this hoax war is for them to take over the planet and stop slavery and do we really want the Department of Defense running the whole world?
No.
So,
Can I ask another question? I'm sorry. Can you clarify or expand a little bit more? I'm just still wondering about the whole 36 weeks versus the 40 weeks from your knowledge. So are you saying like 36-week
36
gestation are human, like Earth, and 40 weeks? I know you said they're likely.
they're Draco hybrids.
Now,
They're
could it be-
created Draco hybrids because they would have been human had they been left alone.
Okay, so to clarify, for 40 weekers that are not in these programs, at least to our knowledge. Could they be starseeds or angelic, or are you saying it's from your understanding?
From my
40 weeks?
understanding, 40 weeks means they've been shot up with Draco DNA, the babies.
Now, are they doing this to regular women, like when they go to
Yes.
checkups, or?
Yes.
But the doctors will not, they say, oh no, you're imagining that. No, it's
I
not. You
don't-
got the dates
I
wrong.
don't think the doctors really know what's going on, because my mother was abducted. My mother has alters. Oh, does she have alters? You can be talking to her and having a great conversation, and all of a sudden she's from hell. And she doesn't remember what either of them talks about. So.
Oh, and also, do you believe, like from what I can tell, a lot of the ones that they target or take into the programs are originally like starseeds or different origin?
They take starseeds. They take people that the most recent past life were working for them. They take people who are bloodline descended from the Magdalene. They take people who are high metagene. That's people from areas where they don't kill witches, because witches are high metagene. So they're looking for the metagene, which is the genetic component of how to create your own reality, because they want to take that ability and use it for their purposes.
Right, to create their timelines they want to create.
Exactly.
Okay.
They are using us to create what they want. And the time travel at Montauk, they deliberately went through and changed things where the CIA would have more power.
Go back in time and purchase land.
They would go back in time and kill people.
Like us, like kill certain, like if they wanted this, they looked at a probability where if they could kill this certain person at this certain time on this farm, then this area of land would be free for them to buy at a certain area.
Remember Larry Solers?
So they would send people. Yeah,
That
people
was
there
his
to do
testimony.
assassinations.
Larry Solers had a testimony that was on YouTube about how he personally was sent back to change the Civil War so that the South would lose, because the North would be stronger against Germany.
Yes.
Yeah, technology came from? Yeah, just quickly,
It's the Montauk shooter.
I just want to say too, though, that I'm a true believer that we do have a lot of really positive, malevolent starseeds from a lot of different planets that are here on Earth. And like you were saying about being the positive, they're here to help shift this.
Yes.
And I've really seen a big shift.
Yeah, I think it's a collaborative
Absolutely.
effort. It's not,
It
it's
is.
no
The
joke. No
trouble
joke. It's a collaborative
is,
effort.
those bright lights show up on the screen for the CIA,
Yeah.
and those are the bright lights they snag.
Yeah,
But,
they see us.
but there's white hats in the CIA.
But what
I do
she's
know
saying,
some that have overcome it. I
right,
do
but
know
what
some
she's
that have
saying is
overcome
when
it.
when
Yeah.
the starseeds and angelics are born, they see them coming through the stargates. So
Yeah.
we're tagged as soon as they see
Yeah.
us coming in.
That's right.
Exactly.
But I know those that have through the higher frequency, and I know, again, with all due respect, I understand what you went through, we can't even fathom.
Right.
But there are those that I know that I've worked with that have been able to get protected when they've been attacked. And even from my work, I have been through a major attack as well. And was
Well,
able to
yeah,
overcome
if
it.
you're
takes a
helping
while,
people,
yeah.
they're
Yeah.
gonna wanna stop you.
Yeah.
Just like they've given Misha hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
But they also karmically want this information out there because before they roll out the cyborg, transhumanism, AI, biotech agenda, it's a karmic thing that people have to know what their choices were if they're going to consent to this biotech agenda.
Okay, they taught us.
So I feel like they want this
They
out.
taught us that stuff in Nachtwaffen. SS stands for Schwarze Sonne, which is Black Sun. And Black Sun is the most intense form of Illuminati on the planet. And that's what we were taught, that this was spiritual truth. And under their rules that they are religiously following, And I have found that the galactic police actually follow the same rules. Okay? They have to generate consent for what they are going to plan to do. So they can do that in fiction. So if you're reading a book, you're watching a movie, you're watching a video on YouTube, at the end of it, you say out loud. It has to be out loud. I do not consent. If you don't say it out loud, you have given consent. Remember the old rape laws, that if you didn't say no, it wasn't rape? That's the way the galaxy works.
But the sleepers, they'll want the nonfiction.
We cannot get justice on the galactic level unless we start saying no. Yes. And the universe hears no very loudly. Yes. That's why so many psyops are telling people, what you resist persists, is because then you don't say no, and they can keep doing whatever they want.
And you can't fix what you don't acknowledge.
Exactly. You can't. That's why they blank our memories. We can't fix what we don't remember.
Don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
Because if you're not aware, you can't heal it.
Exactly.
Right, okay.
You just have all this trauma sitting there that you don't even know where it came from.
Right.
And I don't know whether to thank or curse the agent that activated my memory, because I've now got to live with all of this, but at the same time I know what caused my trauma, and I've realized what my mission is, and part of it is to expose this crap.
Yeah. Yes.
And when I first started, I mean, it's still on my Facebook wall, isn't it? Where I say, I'm a disabled granny with a flashlight and a bullhorn showing you where the shit piles are. You know, that's been on my Facebook profile for the whole 10 years I've been on there. That's how I describe myself. And I'm trying to get enough people to see it, that we get enough pressure on Congress to do a new church commission, to investigate the CIA, to straighten their act up. I would really like to see the CIA destroyed.
Absolutely.
I would like to see that. That would be my ultimate happy place, is to get rid of the CIA entirely and put all of those. What I think would be justice is all of those perps to turn them into cyborgs.
So John Kennedy, the very concept of secrecy is repugnant in a free society.
Exactly. So, but the NSA is not a whole lot better, because they're working with the accordion, and then they're giving that to the bankers.
Who was that?
He was the last piece of President Lincoln.
So.
Can I say something?
Sure.
Do you believe that there's a divine plan that's trying to create a positive outcome for humanity on Earth? And is that, if that's so, is it helpless to fight against these all these other negative beings?
I personally have a fate, a destiny. I have not been able to buck it. I know other people have free will, but I personally do not. Every time I have made a definite, I do not want to do that, that's exactly what they funnel me into.
Yeah.
So that's happened to me too many times for me to think there is not a plan of some kind for some of us. I don't know about everybody, but for me there is. Now, I don't believe in a traditional God. I have met some of the ancient gods, and they are physical ETs. They're pretenders to the throne. So, that puts a lot of skepticism when you start talking about a personal deity. I do believe in source, but source is neutral. Source is all about experience. There is no good or bad, it's just experience.
What gives you happiness in life?
What gives me happiness in life? You want me to be blunt and honest?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
I do beading. I love to do beading. I love to garden. And I like all the normal flesh things. Yeah, I'm still 95% human. So yeah, there are good things in the world, yeah. This place is worth saving. And most of the people are worth saving. But we're going to have to get our asses and do it.
Yes.
We're no more waiting around for somebody to come rescue us, because they're not coming.
Thank you, Penny. And thank you, audience members.
Thank you.
Please consider supporting Super Soldier Talk by purchasing your own Neo Meditation device. Your Neo Meditation device will help you reduce stress, integrate trauma, enhance intuition, enhance clairvoyance, and enhance creativity. Get yours now at www.neologicaltech.com.